Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I welcome all of you for today's session. I hope all of you have been keeping well and whatever has been taught so far has been well received. If there are any questions which has been associated with what has been taught so far, feel free to raise it. Any question pertaining to whatever has been discussed so far. I hope all of you are like making an effort to reflect upon whatever has been taught so far, and any kind of doubts or dilemmas that you're experiencing, you are able to solve it. Always remember, the answer lies in the game of practicing. The more you practice, the greater your sense of understanding would be, the greater your sense of, like I would say, like exposure to the concept and your insight building would be, right? So with respect to this, when we are like starting with today's session, I would like to hyphenate certain possibilities pertaining to it. Ethics and values is what we are going to start with today. I hope everything like before that has been well read, received, understood by all of you. So, as we are starting with ethics and values, we need to understand this is another core theme related to your syllabus. And with respect to it, we all can understand about the segment of Aniket, talk about the structure of answer in ethics. Didn't we discuss that yesterday when we were discussing about consequences of ethics? So in that I discussed the two previous year questions, and in the two previous year questions, if you were present and alert, you can just connect with that. So I mean, in the consequences aspect, I said consequences won't be asked directly. It will be like, how is it impacting like the individual and the society? So for that, first and foremost, to give a formidable overview that how ethics impacts human life in general, and then step by step you discuss that how it is impacting the individual, then how is it impacting the society, in terms of society also how it is impacting the or at organizational level, at national level, at international level. That's what. And then you had to conclude henceforth, like you could have quoted Albert Camus, or you would have quoted any of the thinkers, or you would have just concluded that henceforth the indelible importance of ethics shapes the possibility of human civilization. That's how you're supposed to do. Should we start answer writing after going through the PPT? Not only going through the PPT, but also the chapter which is given in the book. Unless you are not very thorough academically, attempting questions will be always futile. And we are still in the first chapter. If you realize, human values is yet another segment of the first chapter, that is ethics and human interface, right? So first, be very thorough. Be very thorough with respect to the content, and once you are super thorough with the content, then when you see the questions, you have to interpret the question. That's another challenge for majority of the students. Even if they know the theory, even if the concept has been explained, sometimes they are unable to connect that this is the concept which has to be taken up. So when they fail to understand that the theory that has been taught to me, that has to be reproduced related to the question that has been raised, then there is like a dissonance, then there is a possibility where a person is unable to create. So the actual game is this, that you should be able to, like, connect with what possibilities are getting opened up with respect to the language of the question. When you decode the question, recall the theory, that in which aspect I have studied it, and then like attempt the content. That's how it is there. Is negative consequences of ethics same as unethical behavior? Yes. Absence of ethics leads to negative consequences. That's what I had shared, right? So that's what. Any other questions? If you have, please feel free to raise it. Um, the annotated PPTs have been uploaded. I think some students are unable to identify where they are. So probably SME, you can just guide them in the initial go. Gist of ARC only for ethics in governance or all topics. I mean, like, it's like talking about constitution, that do we need constitution only for polity? No, you can quote it in so many other places. Similarly, the gist of second ARC, if some statement is very meaningfully reflective and it can be incorporated in essay, then why not? Some segments will be associated with GS paper 4, some segments will be associated with GS paper 2, governance. And you people just recently studied governance, isn't it? You or evening batch, either of you, you studied governance. So like when you studied governance at that time period, you must have realized the importance of the second ARC. So it goes in both the ways. So that's what. First lecture has still not been uploaded, problematic for revision. Okay, all right, Zeba. So SME, please look into this concern with the tech team, that why the first lecture's PPT has not been uploaded. So I want to ask while the writing, can I mention the example? Yes, yes, yes. You can mention the examples. It brings clarity in your answer. Okay, it brings clarity in the answer. As you bit by bit go through the content, you'll realize this thing, that I would be like simplifying. I would be simplifying the concepts for all of you. So when you listen it from me, you'll be like, this is like a cakewalk. When you'll read it in the book with all the theoretical terms, jargons, and not simplified day-to-day life examples, you will be like struggling with the possibility that it's like something very rigorous, right? Lecture 1 PPT SME is constantly sharing. You can see that. It's like shared by him. All those who are struggling, please just check it out. So why is it not opening? Okay, so people can see, they cannot open. SME, please look into the concern why they are unable to open. First two chapters in the book are too vague to understand. Yeah, I mean, like when you revise it multiple times, bit by bit, it starts unfolding. Ethics is not like a science paper. It's not like as I would say distinct like even environment or geography. That fact is fact. You read it and you get it. It needs some kind of reflection. You're reading, reflecting, again reading, reflecting, connecting. So it does take some time, but once it starts blooming for you, you realize that it's far more in depth, far more exhaustive, far more thought provoking than any of the subjects you are studying. That's the beauty of it. Okay. So, yes, you can incorporate eightfold path also. It is yet another sub segment. I mean, when you are giving illustrations and examples with respect to how we are arriving at ethics, and when you are connecting it with religion, there you can also incorporate eightfold path. All right. So that's what. Can we give personal life experiences? Well, Ilma, how famous are you? That the examiner will be able to understand and connect with your personal life experience. Do not incorporate it till the time the examiner gives you the liberty to do so. Like, for example, the examiner says, like, you had a question that, like, which famous personality has impacted upon you, and how? How has the person's ideals or ethics impacted your ethos and your perspective and your real life? In that situation, you can give your personal life experience and connect the two. Otherwise, that will be a futile possibility. Otherwise, I mean, like, your real life experiences will not be needed. First. Second thing is that real life experiences can be incorporated, but as a third person, if it is general and like noticed by all, understood by all. But the moment you say my real life experience, if there is some exclusive incident or something like that, that cannot be consolidated till the time the examiner gives you the academic liberty to do so. Okay. So that's the wisdom that you need to carry. Current affairs is current affairs for all, which can be discussed in third person. Sometimes we can't say no in to immoral action in the name of respect to society. Well, we'll be talking about it today when we are discussing about values and stages of moral development, Shanavas. So you'll get an idea about this aspect. Okay. So case study, first chapter हुआ नहीं, case study सीखना है. पहले कुछ बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट तो सीख लो, then you'll be able to understand the case study. For case study, at least like complete 3 chapters. Okay. Or rather, after the first chapter, even if I complete aptitude, okay, aptitude and civil services values, then also you will be slightly capable to deal with case studies, at least 2 chapters minimum. Less than that you won't be able to even, like, grab what the case study is dealing with. So that's what. So I think all of you are getting some brief idea with respect to what like are your concerns and what dimensions are there. All right. So now, so interface of state in personal life. Interface of state in personal life means how the state and its presence, like interface of state in personal life, person life you have written. Do you imply to say personal life or in a person's life? Because like there can be hairline difference between that, Mrityunjay. I mean, and I encourage all of you to write wholesome, correct grammar. Don't write indicative words for me to decode it. So this is something which I'll like encourage. So, interface of like the state in a person's life is that the state through law encourages ethical behavior. Through external locus of control, the state encourages us to follow certain acts which are perceived to be right. That's how you're supposed to connect with it. And law and ethics, we have already discussed. There is a chart also, if you can remember: external locus of control, internal locus of control, all of that. So you just have to connect with that. So with respect to this, Musharraf, for that, open the book, and after opening the book, find out where is the chapter related to ethics and human interface, ethics in public and private relation, human values, and then start reading that. That's how you start reading the book. So, selective, why do you want to be selective, Shalu, for a 250 marks paper? Just there is one book. I mean, for geography, you're ready to read 5 NCRTs and 1 GC Leong, and you're ready to read 3 NCRTs for history, and then you're ready to read so this Bipin Chandra, and then you're ready to read something for Indian society, then for art and culture. For 250 marks, you're ready to hustle so much for paper 1. And for paper 4, in one book also you are saying how much to read and how much to leave. I mean, is this college going life or what, that you can still be selective? Huh? 250 marks at stake. At least be thorough with one book, at least one book, one basic book to begin with, right? So can we say rationality is also a component of ethics? Yes, when we are talking about reasoning, logic, if you remember, we were talking about it, no, just day before yesterday, and yesterday also very briefly when we were talking about it, ethics of care, like public ethics versus private ethics. So in public ethics, was what was ruling, Pulkit? It was rationality, isn't it? Remember that? So the questions you all are asking, do you realize it is something associated with what has been taught? All you need is to reflect a bit, and you will be able to deal with it. So this is what is required. I mean, majority of you who are asking which chapters to read from the book are those students who have not even turned the book and seen the preface of it, the contents of it. I mean, I think at your age, who are aspiring to govern the country, become civil servants, IAS officers, opening the book and identifying the name of the chapter and tallying the name with the topic that is being taught, and then being capable to read it, is the bare minimum that can be expected, right? um, how moral essay is an ethical poem? Well, what should I interpret from this question with respect to um, like the component that is being taught, Urvashi? How moral essay is an ethical poem? First, a ethical poem is grammatically incorrect expression. It should have been an ethical. मैं subconsciously सही बोल रही हूँ, but how moral essay is an ethical poem, I mean, like, what do you imply by that? Because if you imply to say that essays based on morality are written like an ethical poem, no, I'm really sorry. Language, if flowery and gassy in UPSC essays, that leads to negative marks. You don't have to write in a poetic language or a flowery language, though the concerns will be philosophical. The language has to be explorative, critically analytical, and opening various domains of life and existence. But that does not mean that it will be like a poem. Writing like jingos and jargons does not make it sensible. by raising such kind of, I would say, concerns or question. Should we start reading a book right now? Yes, you should start reading the book right now, Mrityunjay. This is the time, because then you will realize that how simplified the lecture is and how intense the book is, and at what level you need to go. The lecture is a stepping stone. It simplifies the concept, introduces the concept. As you move ahead, you realize that, oh, it is something which is quite tedious. So, ma'am, please briefly explain difference between mythology and history. Okay, I think SME has already discussed this, right? So, traditional stories, legends, cultural like beliefs, and supernatural phenomena, while history is a factual account of past events based on evidence and documentation. But and yes, to add to the above, what you have written, SME, and that's perfectly correct what you have shared for Hardeep. To add to the above, mythology is also a part of our, literary tradition, oral tradition, cultural tradition. So, mythology also gives a sneak peek related to the belief systems of the people, the cultural thought process of the people, the, we can say, emotional engagements of the people, and the do's and don'ts. Like, for example, if someone is reading Hitopadesha, animals are talking, right? So, did at any point of time, and that's mythology, right? So, did at any point of time animals talk like human beings? No, not really. But what does Hitopadesh imply? It implies there are short stories for children about do's and don'ts. Through the story, through the narratives of, or through the lives of animals, it is created, it is created that how individuals over the time period, they have a tendency to, I would say, interact, falter, create problems. And through simplistic examples, through animals lives, like indicative suggestions are given for the next generation, that what ought to be done in moments of crisis. So, we can say that mythology, when we are speaking of it, any of them, whether it is Mahabharata, or whether it is Jataka tales, or whether it is Hitopadesh, any of it, it is also a symbolic representation of the culture, the thought process of the people. We can say the ideals which have influenced the society, the, we can say, the cultural orientation of people, the, we can say, the do's and don'ts that people have prescribed and proscribed. So, all of it is also a part of mythology. So, mythology is not just a collection of stories itself or just legends. It also has a in like unavoidable impact in terms of interpreting the culture of a society, the ethos of a society. Okay, and that's why, because it helps us in understanding the culture and ethos of a society, mythology is heavily quoted in ethics, because it gives us a philosophical sneak peek of what a society believed in and what it dismissed, right? So, what is the difference between psychological egoism and ethical egoism? Well, when we are speaking of it, that is something which is taught in psychology. It has not, like, it is not to deal with this given segment in prominence. So, like, you can just relax about that. Can we explain sociology, Alka? Ma'am, can we explain sociology, like, what is the rhyme and reason of this question? I cannot understand, because first, the sentence is grammatically incorrect. Can be, do you want to say we? Second, what has sociology to do with ethics paper? I mean, or what has PubEd to do? What has history to do? I mean, they are exclusive disciplines. Ethics is a distinct discipline in itself, which we are dealing with right now. So, if I learn the PPTs by heart, would it be enough? You tell me, would your polity PPTs or history PPTs being taught be enough for you for your mains exam? And if you think that if your polity or history PPTs taught by your teachers would be enough for your mains exam, so be it for this one. You know that it's not enough, right? So, why such questions? I think that's something which needs to be understood. Can we understand mythology to literature? Mythology is a piece of literature. Okay, it is a piece of literature which is not verified. That's why it is a part of cultural tradition of a society, but not a proved piece of history. Okay, that's why when we read mythology in history, it depicts the culture of the people, the belief systems of the people, the thoughts of the people. But it cannot be verified, because if animals are talking, how will you verify it? If, like, let's say there is a Pushpak Viman flying in the air, how will you verify it, right? That's why it becomes mythology. But what people believed, what people thought, what ideals they preserved, like a younger brother like Bharat respecting his elder brother like Ram, like, Ram following the instructions of his father, the promise of his father. So that was speaking about ideals, how family system existed, how sibling relationship existed in the times, because whatever existed became a part of the oral or written tradition. I hope you are understanding how and what is the role of mythology, right? Should we read psychology? How can I say why, like, whether you should read psychology or not? I mean, I will be talking about three specific topics which are associated with psychology in ethics. So why will I encourage you to read entire domain of psychology for the sake of three chapters? Okay, so that's what. Now I think I've taken enough questions so far. So we need to start with the session as well. So almost 20 minutes has been devoted for question and answer. ऐसे करेंगे तो 3 घंटा क्वेश्चन आंसर ही चलेगा. So SMEs, please support me with the question answer. So with respect to this, we can see that there are three sets of values when we are discussing about it. So there is human, there is public or foundational value, and there is values pertaining to service. So there have been, if we talk about the previous year question, there have been 20 questions asked so far. And with respect to this given area, that 20 questions have been asked so far between 2013 to 2022. Now, with this brief insight, you can understand that this is a very important area. Almost every year, one question must have come. In certain years, two questions also must have come. And this topic has to deal with two chapters. One is related to ethics, where you have human values. And second, when we talk about foundational value, this is associated with aptitude, civil services aptitude and foundational values, which is the next chapter that we will be dealing with. So the combination of the two is creating 20 questions in last 10 years. So when we are speaking about it, we all can start with the component of human values. And in the dimension of human values, when we are talking about it, we all can understand, that human values, they are common to all human beings, right? Like, for example, the emotion of love, truth, compassion. Even you can see it's written that even Osama bin Laden, okay, would love his children when we are speaking of it. So, like, when we are speaking of this given dimension, it looks like it is in the center, but it's not, because the writing part is more in this side. So I'll sit here. So when we are speaking about this given dimension, we can see that human values are, like, kind of, we can consider common to all, they are universal to all, and they are associated with our basic fundamental understanding, emotion. And it also makes, like, its presence felt in broader human rights when we are talking about it. In India, we can connect it with fundamental rights also, right? So the broader human rights are associated with universal human values. And on an average, when we are talking about these broader human values or universal values, they don't change. They don't change with time or person or region. They remain, like, static. So respecting another human being and not infringing upon the person's rights by threatening the person's life or something like that is something which is observed in all parts of world, all types of cultures, and at any given point of time, without any reason, one individual cannot hurt, harm, or kill another human being. So respecting other human beings' life, if we are connecting with this dimension, we can consider it is a like human value which is preserved, and it is connected to all cultures. Similarly, dimensions pertaining to truth and compassion, it is common for all civilizations and culture. you know when we are talking about human values, we need to understand that this chapter is also connected to the dimension. It's written inculcation of human values by family, educational institutions, and society. So let us understand, when we are talking about inculcation of values by family, educational institutions, and the society, so let us understand this basic fact that no human being is born in isolation. We can consider that there is no person who can call himself or herself as a self-made person. There is nothing like self-made person, because at all times the society is influencing us, it is socializing us directly or indirectly, it is training us to a specific behavior, which ought to make our lives simplistic, or which connects us to the larger social phenomena, even if we are, majority of the times living in isolation. So whether it comes to wearing clothes or using different types of gadgets or eating cooked food, like even the basic elementary activities of life or using a washroom, this is coming because of social training. We are not living like animals. It is because of the reason that we are, like you know that we are associated with a specific kind of social environment or a social training when we are talking about this given dimension. Akula, you don't know who Osama bin Laden is? So that's surprising that you don't have any idea about global politics and terrorism. Please try to know about him. All right. Even though, the SME has given you the answer, but rather than a shortcut answer, it's better that you find it for yourself, because this elementary level of understanding is expected that every student should have. So, see, like one of your friends is saying that it singer in Iran, so that is can be someone living in your neighborhood also. And in Mukherjee Nagar there was Laden Chai Wala in 2013-14. तो अब ये मतलब मजाक थोड़ी हम लोग कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. We are talking about something serious and that ought to be perceived properly by everyone. So it's okay if a person doesn't know. Just remember that it's important a name and you should be knowing about him. Anyway, so as I said that there is no person who's a self-made person. Every person is a byproduct of the society. The moment we, learn how to exist in a society, walk against gravity, wear clothes, like have a civilized behavior, use washroom, know language, learn how to communicate, use different types of goods and gadgets, we are not living in isolation, and we are not self-made. Hundreds and thousands of people born before us have shaped us. The moment we learn how to walk against gravity, wear clothes, eat cooked food, use a washroom, this is not something that we arrived at suddenly. It is something that many people worked on, various types of inventions, discoveries, different types of interventions, because of which generation after generation life started becoming easy, and things, it started reaching out to all when we are talking about it. Again, when we are speaking of this given dimension, you can also connect it with this possibility, which is very popularly said, that a person is an average of 5 people that he or she knows and is closest to. Okay, so you or I, we are an we if anyone wants to study us, what the person only needs to ask, who are the 5 closest people to us and why they are closest, why we feel close to those people. So if someone is able to know who are the 5 closest people and study their personality pattern and their traits, the person can on an average have a tentative understanding or inkling about my personality. Okay, so that is something which all of you need to understand. So human values, when we are like moving ahead with this given subsegment, we all need to understand this possibility with respect to what values are. So probably first and foremost, before starting the component like difference between values and attitude, probably I can give you the features of values, the distinct features of values. So here you can see what are like human values when we speak of it. So human values are what? They are like static, never changing ideals which are guiding human behavior. So I'm just going to give this language to what values are. So over here you can just discuss this given dimension if it is asked. So distinct features or characteristics. Characteristics. So distinct features or characteristics of values. When we reflect upon it, we are able to arrive at its definition, its explanation, and its various dimensions. So, first and foremost, we need to understand that values are what? They are comprehensive standards, comprehensive standards that guide us to take specific positions in social situations, right? So, for example, you can think of the value of equality guided guided the jurisdiction in Sabrimala issue. Right or wrong, we are not going to discuss that. Okay, but what was it that inspired the like justice in Sabrimala issue? So it was the value of equality, right? So it is the value that gives comprehensive standards to us, that guides us in that what specific position stand we need to take in different social situations. Second, what we can say, values are relatively stable, relatively stable and enduring. When I'm saying they are like relatively stable and they are enduring, so that means that only in very small incidents of life or very intense situations of life, a person's value may change. Okay, like maybe a person respects his or her father, and there is tremendous sense of respect towards one's parents, and a person has lived in this ideal that one should at all times in all condition respect parents, right? But suppose a person witnesses a situation or a side of that parent which the person had never imagined, which maybe is associated with some cruel act or some insensitive act or some criminal act, or some unjustified act which is too heinous. And when the person witnesses, the person is rattled, and the pedestal which the person had created for the parent, that this is the level where parents are untouched and we should never have opinions about parents and never cross them, never question them. So in that situation, a person who's having such an opinion that we should never question, never challenge a parent, and suddenly, like, let us consider a person witnesses such a life challenging and life changing event. In such a situation, the person will reconsider one's value system, that does deep sense of respect and reverence towards parents remain unchallenged at all times? Are you getting it? So when we are speaking of values, they are relatively stable and enduring. Only some intense incident in life can have the power to change it. Okay, again, with respect to it, when we are speaking of it, we can also, like, अगर इसमें देखो, for example, अगर चाहो तो मैं दे सकती हूँ. For example, you can say only intense incidents I should first write and then give it the example. So only intense incidents can change it. Okay. For example, you can think of Ashoka after Kalinga War. So, after seeing so much of bloodshed and yet not being able to annex the territory, take control over the people still asserting for their freedom, whereby millions died. In those times where population was so limited, it was considered that the entire sea was soaked with blood, and the river that was flowing, it started flowing red in color. So many people had died, but still people did not surrender, which made Ashoka, it left Ashoka like thinking that I am so great and so popular and so much of valor and so much of territory that I own, and still a little territory of Kalinga which is not ready to surrender and ready to fight unto death, and millions have died. So, what is the purpose of war? What is the purpose of this annexation? What is the purpose of life per se? So, all those the huge intense possibility. Yes, very good. I really appreciate the student who could, oh, sorry, it was the SME, that belief plus emotion equals to value. I mean, very good. If you are able to recall with the very first chapter, so they are deeply held beliefs and principles that guide our attitude, choices, and behavior, simply put. Okay. So when we are speaking about this given dimension, we all can connect with this given possibility that values, when they are like generally relatively stable and enduring, only in like intense incidents can change. Like Ashoka after Kalinga war, right? You can think of Gandhiji and Gandhiji, right? You can think of he when he witnessed apartheid, so that opened his eyes, right? So apartheid in Africa. You can think of Angulimal, and Angulimal like meeting Buddha, right? So all that, such examples you can think of, right? Third segment which you can talk about is that values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. Humanity ought to be. A similar statement was asked in your essay topic also in one of the previous years. So, values are not what humanity is, means what we are living may not be based on value necessarily. Okay, but when we are speaking of value, value is based on what we ought to be, what we should aspire to be. Okay, when we are speaking of this given dimension, right? So, values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be, what we aspire to be, what ideally we aspire to achieve per se. Again, we can consider the fourth segment is that values are above specific objects, specific objects, situations, or people, or people. So we can consider that values are core to our existence. They like values are way less in number, and one value can inspire different types. It can have different manifestations in the form of our attitude. Okay, so like the value of honesty can promote a behavior which is guided by like being accountable, or working diligently, or like fulfilling our tasks properly, listening to the grievance, or addressing the grievances of the public. So all this will come when you want honesty to prevail in the system. So one value can have multiple manifestations in terms of behavior. Okay, so values, you can see that they are very like limited in number. Okay, they are core to human personality, core to human personality, and are fewer in number than attitudes, fewer in number than attitudes, right? So that's something which all of you can understand. These are the characteristics of values as a whole, or are human values. These are characteristics associated with, and when we are talking about values, definitely it's human values. So how are you distinguishing it, like Manoj, when you are talking about this? I mean, like when you are seeing, are these characteristics of human values? Yes, they are characteristics of human values. And on an average, on the whole, it is discussion about human values. Why will I talk about values prevailing in animals? And then another question will be, do other creatures other than human beings have values? Okay. Point three, you are not getting, values are not what humanity is. Okay. So, Shalu, please be alert when I'm explaining it. Values are not what humanity is. Means what you are living in your daily life is not necessarily guided by value. So, what you live, your action, your behavior may not always necessarily be guided by values. But what are values? Values are what humanity ought to be. So values are associated with the aspirations, that what humanity ought to be, what humanity should aspire to be, should be guided by. All right. So that's what. So values determine, or values guide human beings, what they should aspire to perceive. All right. Explain point 4 again. Okay. So, but it is always guided by ethics. Yes, I hope you understand, Utkarsh, that values are also associated with ethics. We derive our values from the broader universal ethics. There are universal ethics, they somewhere guide and shape our values, right? So ethics are clear and distinct do's and don'ts. Values are aspirations, what should be done, what ought to be done, right? So, I mean, I hope you understand that values is not a balloon which bursts. I hope you are understanding that values and ethics are interconnected, right? So, that's what. So, now, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, uh, values are above specific objects, situations, and people. Means it's not, if I'm saying the value of honesty. So, can I change the value of honesty just because my brother is there, just because my mother is there or father is there? So, because if I compromise with it, I won't be an honest person. Then I'll be exercising favoritism or nepotism, so, or of some of the kind. But when we are speaking of it, that values are above specific people, specific situations, specific objects, means at all times values should be exercised. In all situations, values should be exercised. And values, they guide the human behavior. They are less in number, they guide, they have multiple manifestations in the way we enact in different situations, right? Yes, values are associated with our human principles, right? What is written before Buddha? Anguli Mal, Ashoka, Kalinga War. So Buddha, Anguli Mal. किसको नहीं समझ में आ रहा है भाई? ये तो रुको. I'll write it in caps. You know what? With your generation, the greatest challenge is that your generation is not very well read. In our case, we thought that we are not reading enough, we are not getting exposed enough. But now, when I, in the process of teaching your generation, when I really explore, I see that a lot of garbage TikTok and these Insta videos eat up the quality time of a child. And a lot of things which should have been a part of healthy entertainment, healthy thought process, in the process of evolution of a human being, evolution of a child, that goes missing. I mean, the story of Anguli Mal, I knew when I was in standard maybe 4 or 5. So it comes as a surprise when a student of graduation is unable to connect with Angulimal, or for that matter, like, like a topic like or a name like Osama bin Laden. It comes as a surprise because on an average, I feel we were better exposed to news information, because when news used to come, it was the Doordarshan news. And anyway, bin Laden is a later day phenomena, but I'm saying that in Doordarshan days and just one channel, we were forced to watch the news, because when it's news time, everyone is listening to it, the entire family is listening to it. So even if I was a kid like in standard 5 or 7 and least interested in news, but I used to listen to at least keywords. Another thing was, one was exposed to a lot of, I would say, history, we can say culture, mythology, because grandparents used to talk. We had time to listen to grandparents and share, like they were able to share their world of wisdom with us. Also, like, we were voracious readers. Books were our sources of entertainment. So summer break was all about reading books during afternoon and playing in the evening. And after playing, then doing the homework, the holiday homework, the summer break homework. But afternoons and evenings were amazing, getting up and then, like venturing out in our own library or friend's library or neighborhood library. But that's what was the fun of summers: reading to the point of exhaustion, and then just getting back, eating again, sleeping, getting up again, reading, and then going to play. So that was so much fun. And probably that was the reason how we got exposed to so many books. There was yet another habit which I had, like in my school days, like at 9 o'clock, our school assembly used to take place, but the senior batch bus used to come at 7:30. So some days I used to get up early, get ready, board that bus at 7:30, 8 o'clock, which was before like our schedule, and I used to go to the library 1 hour before the school commenced, because the library used to open at 8 o'clock. So, and I used to sit in the library and read all the storybooks that were there in the library. So I was exposed to a sizable piece of literature which helped in the development of language, creative skills, imaginative possibilities. So, voracious reading ought to be a part of, I would say, like a thought process and development of a student's language. So that's also there. Okay, you also read in class 6 about Angulimal Kora. Great, glad to know that. So that's also there. So, what else? We are going backwards in terms of values and morals, even in the case of ancient knowledge. Well, there are like contesting possibilities when we can talk about it. So, what do you mean values are fewer in number than attitude? Didn't I say that given dimension? I explained it, Sriram. So I repeat once again, all those students who did not listen to the explanation thoroughly, please this time be alert. I gave the example that suppose I am guided by the value of honesty, then it will manifest itself in my attitude in different ways. I will be taking the grievances of people because I'll be an honest, upright officer. So I'll try to bring in honesty in my department. If I am an honest person, I will make the system accountable. I will make the system transparent. I will be punctual and disciplined, because the value of honesty will guide and manifest itself in different forms of behavior and attitude. Okay, that is what I imply by saying that values are lesser in number. Okay, values are lesser in number, which also guides our attitude, our temperament, our behavior, how we behave in specific situation. So one value may impact different types of behavior in different situations. So one value can guide, like, different types of behavior and manifest itself in different forms of attitude. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now, can we say values vary with space and time as their source, which are morals also vary? Well, we'll get back to that dimension little later. Let's focus on the characteristics, because there is no end to questions. Please help me, SME, with all that. So with respect to this, when we are talking about it, attitudes are manifestation of values. Manifestation of values, right? So we have fewer at values but several attitudes. Several attitudes. Fewer values but several attitudes. So suppose if I'm talking about the value of equality, value of equality, it will manifest itself as, like, equality towards caste, equality towards gender, equality towards religion, equality towards all classes, right? And this is what? This is attitude, the attitude that we exhibit. So I hope that's getting clear, right? So with respect to this given dimension, as we further substantiate this given dimension, yes, very good, Pulkit, you are able to recall the first session. So beliefs plus emotions was value, and plus behavior, when it manifests itself in action, that becomes attitude. So the very first session which I had taken and I had drawn the diagram, good that you are able to connect with it. All right. So when you are able to, like, connect with what, like, we can say are the features or characteristics of values, we can understand the difference between value and attitude. So I just shared this with respect to it, that values are beneath, they are like underneath the attitude. So values are beneath the attitude, values are underneath, attitude is the manifestation of it. So I believe in democracy, that's my value, and my attitude will be going and casting the vote, right? So belief in democracy is the value, and casting the vote is the attitude. That's the action part, that's the behavior part. Okay. So when we are talking about it, so like we can see western societies are becoming less and less tolerant. So if tolerance as a value is diminishing, so if value of tolerance is diminishing, so what will be the attitude? The attitude can exercise with, like we can say, hostility, violence. So we will be able to witness increase in violence, increase in hostile behavior, right? Hostile behavior can increase. There can also be rise in crime in the society. Okay. So attitude shall manifest itself in various ways when we are talking about it. Okay. So again, we can classify different types of values when we are discussing about it. So there can be values which are pertaining to an individual. So what are individual values? Like liberty, survivability, self development, creativity, some of them we can see. Societal values or social values which keeps the society intact, makes us connected to the larger society and its concerns, so like cooperation, tolerance, compassion and all. Environmental values which protects and preserves the environment, so something like chipko movement was something related to the preservation of environment, or like when we are harmonizing ourselves with the surroundings. Again, organizational values can also be there pertaining to the job that we are doing, like if we are a doctor and working in a hospital, so there will be certain values that are followed in the hospital. If we are working in an NGO, there will be specific values with respect to running an NGO. If we are a civil servant or a public servant, there will be specific values governing our public office, right? Then there are constitutional values which are associated with fundamental rights, duties, DPSP, right? Again, with respect to this, we can see that how we can inculcate human values. So human values can be inculcated in two ways. So one is socialization and second is social control. When we speak socialization and social control, ma'am, please repeat value and attitude. Oh God. SME, please repeat it for him, because repeating myself again and again is not possible. We have to complete the syllabus also, no? I mean, please repeat values and attitude. You can read these two specific. But I don't know what students do they just like go to the washroom early morning, or they get lost? What happens that you miss the train? I explained it so very thoroughly. So read point number 4 and point number 5. All right. Pawan, read point number 4 and point number 5. You will be able to understand the difference between the two. All right. I have explained this very thoroughly here also. The point number 4 and 5 is explained here also. This is one value, loss of tolerance. Attitude is manifesting itself in multiple ways. So you'll be able to connect with this. So अरे बेटा, इंटरनेट इंटरप्शन हुआ तो इंटरनेट इंटरप्शन अगर हर बच्चे का सोचो होने लग गया, तो मैं तो फिर एक ही चीज को ऑन द लूप ला 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 बोलती रहूंगी, है ना? सो यू कैन ऑलवेज रिविजिट. Remember, if it is an important dimension, it will be there in the PPT, or I'll be noting down, explaining it in the PPT. You will not miss out. So don't have that fear of missing out. It will be taken care of, right? So with respect to this, can we say that we believe in values and what we do to support the values attitude? Yes, definitely, Prakhar. Remember the first day diagram, you will be able to connect with it. So, value, what was value? It was cognition. Remember, belief. Okay, so cognition plus emotion, strong emotion. That was value. When it incorporates our present behavior, the way we will act, then it becomes attitude. So, that's what, right? Okay, one value leads to a lot of attitude. Yes, it can lead to a lot of manifestations, which is born by our attitude, right? So that is what. No problem, no problem, Pawan. It's okay. I mean, it's fine that a 20-year-old child will become little nervous when he's seeing that there are some technical jargons being spoken and there is disruption in internet and feeling that अरे एक बार फिर से सुन लेते तो that's a very natural tendency. Anyone can feel. I also would have felt that. That's okay. But don't like feel scared. Things are taken care of. You won't miss out. So please tell environmental value has non-vegetarianism as killing animal. Okay, well, non-vegetarianism, compassion towards animal. So non-vegetarianism with respect to environmental value and compassion towards animal, I imply to say that not practicing non-vegetarianism, you are able to contribute in your own way by exercising compassion to the animals. That's what. But always remember, being completely vegetarian is also not in the favor of the earth and its resources. To a certain extent, for creating stability of resources, a few communities or few people need to switch to a certain extent to non-vegetarianism, because the earth is not capable to support all the needs pertaining to the grains that we aspire to eat. So the earth is not growing enough grains to support like the necessary requirement of grains by all. So it has to be supported by other animals as well, and that's why farming of animals becomes like the way we do farming of we can consider crops. In the similar manner, farming of animals also has to be done. But then when we are talking about environmental value, we have to see to it that what kind of farming is pro environment and what kind of farming needs to be avoided. Like for example, if we are rearing cows and we are rearing pigs and we are rearing, like let us consider all these animals who, if cleaned, killed, packaged, so in the process of packaging the meat, whether it is chicken or ham or it is any other form of such meat, then it will cause a lot of methane gas, and that methane gas will be not pro environment. अब ये सब चीजें डिटेल में इसलिए नहीं बोल रही थी because it was expected कि science and tech and environment पढ़ा होगा तो इतना तो जानते ही होगे, ठीक है? So that's what I implied. I stuck to Chipko movement because even one example will do. You don't need to get into 5 examples to explain environmental value. All right, Shalu? So stick to one example that will take care of the purpose. Again, when I'm discussing socialization, I mean values, how it is inculcated through 2 ways: socialization and social control, to be specific, right? So vegetarianism is a value of environment. Yes, vegetarianism is also a value of environment because by exercising vegetarianism, we are focusing on vegetables primarily, and that ways you are causing less methane release. Or dependence on dairy is also, or dependence on animals is also not always healthy for the environment, healthy for the rights of the animal per se. That's something which you can understand. I mean, for me, like someone is killing and eating an animal is as violent as, like, taking the milk of the cow and in inhuman conditions, like rearing and breeding the cow. Like, the cow is like you can see in such coercive conditions, inseminated, and then, like, when she has a baby, the baby is denied the milk, and the way the milk is procured, all the process is too inhuman, too cruel. And then consuming that milk and saying that, oh, we are practicing cruelty free behavior, is again like ethically debatable. Okay, so because many a times you also can see that the male calf is sometimes killed because it does not because it will become a bull. So many a times, if a cow is giving birth to a lot of male calf, or a buffalo is giving birth to a lot of male buffalo, in that situation you will see that a lot of babies are eliminated, killed immediately, because it is considered that now the cow will continue to give milk, and or there will be other artificial methods to get the milk, and the baby is no more required, no more needed. So I mean, when we are talking about consumption of milk being a vegetarian behavior, no, not really. If someone is really so fierce about vegetarianism, let that person like practice veganism. And if someone is open about the possibility that yes, to a certain extent, compromises have to be made, some kind of violence has to be exercised, the person should not have too hostile and too strong an attitude towards those people who are into consumption of meat, because ethics will teach you this concept of relativity. Okay, anyway, going ahead further with respect to this. So, inculcation of values, when we are speaking about it, values can be inculcated through two processes. One is socialization, second is social control. So, in socialization, it is like we can say bottom up approach. When you are like training a child from the nascent stage, like parents, teachers, they are training a child with certain specific values of do's and don'ts. And it can be through different ways. It can be with role playing. Role playing means a child is copying his mother or copying the father or copying, like, the teacher, copying the doctor, something like that. So you'll see that children will play games, and through games they will copy the, seniors, and by copying, subconsciously they train themselves with values, like the value of compassion, the value of caring is something which they copy from their mother. The value of nurturing they learn from their father, right? The value of, again, caring, they learn it from the doctor. The value of training, they are learning with compassion, with understanding, is what they are learning from their teacher. So a child is constantly learning different sets of values through the process of socialization per se. Okay, and when we are talking about this given possibility, we can also connect it with the dimension related to social control. So when we discuss about social control, we can understand that the dimension of inculcation of values is not always like top down approach, sorry, bottom up approach. Bottom up means rising from the bottom to up. Okay, whereby the society is training systematically, bit by bit, what kind of values ought to be followed. It can be the reverse order also, it can be top down approach also. And when I say it can be top down approach, you can see that there can be a possibility whereby an individual may get exposed to a possibility that the person is we can say that the person is inflicted upon some kind of punishment for not adhering to the value of the society. So there are ways that a society tries to like inculcate values in an individual, like by inflicting upon certain punishments, restrictions. In tribal societies you can see ostracization, or rural societies ostracization. Ostracization means boycotting a person, not talking or living or staying with the person. So that's also there, because when people feel that, oh, this person is not like favorable or not good for the society, in that situation you can see that possibility can also be there, right? So ma'am, if such a controversial question is asked in the interview, that animal rights plus human behavior, how to respond? Create a balance, as simple as that, Azhar. Okay, be as rational as possible. Rationality is something which will bring in the justice. Okay, so what is the rationality? Rationality is we can neither exercise vegetarianism in all societies, communities at all times, and nor fierce non-vegetarianism is going to take us anywhere. So there has to be an ethical approach towards consumption of meat. There has to be an ethical approach towards the way we are associating ourselves with animal kingdom. So like for example, pisciculture is there, done. Like for example, rearing of animals is done. So in what area, in what territory, how animals are reared. Recently I was also reading that we should also spread, or we should also diversify our nature of consumption of protein. For example, in Southeast Asia, people eat different types of bugs and beetles, and people who had never eaten bugs and beetles, when for the first time they ate, when they did not know it's a bug or a beetle, because it was cleaned, processed, it was sorted and fried, and it was created in such a manner that when those individuals they ate it, there's like, it was interesting, the meat was decent, it was little different, but it was decent. So when they had finished the food, they were informed that this was the bug or this was the beetle that they ate. It came as a surprise. Few people also felt disgusted. But then the issue that was raised was that if the world is increasing in its population, do we not need to switch to other alternative sources of protein, which is high or rich in protein, easily available, causing less environmental damage, okay, and can act as a healthier alternative? Okay, so all this is also getting debated when we are talking about it. So how values go from social control, that's what I'm discussing. So I said that social control, when it is coercive behavior, when punishment is inflicted. Ajay, if you, Ajay, were you absent again? Did you join the session just now? uh, because I had shared this. कल भी तुम्हारा क्वेश्चन ऐसे ही बीच में आया था, तो मजा आ गया था बिल्कुल मेरे को, इसीलिए ऐसे ही पूछ लिया मैंने. Right? Yes, nowadays lab grown meat is also there, vegetarian meat as they call. So all that stuff is also there. Right? So when we are speaking of it, the given dimension associated with social control. So, social control, you can see that it will be coercive in nature. It will be associated with punishments, or it can be associated with fines. It can be associated with ostracization. Okay. So, uh, I can read it directly. You can refer to the faculty I have joined starting. You can write it directly also. Ma'am, I joined the session from the very beginning. I did not pay attention to the component of social control. Hence, I wanted it to be repeated. That's the formal way to address, all right? Because that's how you will be addressing your senior. Always remember, when you will get into the system, there will be a lot of things in which your seniors will be pinpointing that this was not up to mark, or this seemed not to be up to mark. In that situation, you'll have to learn how to address the given issue, whereby the conversation is formal, correct, and it addresses a smooth sense of, exchange of information. So this is how, lectures train you not only with the content of ethics, they also train you with the human behavior you need to possess in the interview. Okay, one more thing which let me share with this with all of you. In the interview, in majority of the, we can say, formal interviews, you'll see there is a female board member, which UPSC purposefully keeps to check biases. The biases which people inculcate from their childhood. Maybe someone is intimidated by father but fearless before mother, or living in a society where gender inequality is constantly exercised. So such a child will be intimidated by the male board member, but with female board member, after two or three easy questions, the child can be extra laughing or extra casual, or can just, casually pass a remark. All those things do happen. Or the reverse, can be little hostile, little more pursed up lips, can be little, tensed while speaking to the female member, and more cordial, more comfortable with male member. The vice versa situation can also happen, that a child is very close to the mother and very, reluctant or distant from the father. So such individuals, over the 20 years, when they have developed such a habit, being close to, female teachers, respecting them, having a motherly feeling, and then very close to mother, very close to elder sister. So when in the board they find a female member, they are very comfortable, normal, cool, calm in responding to the questions while she is asking. And when male board members are asking, the child is tensed, having pursed lips, unable to recall, or there is a visible sense of discomfort. So all this is also tested in the final interview. So all of you keep reflecting that while you respond in the class, every part of your personality through your words is put to test. Every way that you react, it is put to test, so that you can start working upon your personality bit by bit. Reflect upon your own individual human history of last 2 decades, what you have inculcated so far, and what corrections are necessary, inevitable, and required. Okay, that is going to design and shape the way you will be finally approaching and coming forward in the interview. Okay, great, Nitesh. You could see many mark sheets who got 25 and 35 penalty marks. Glad to know that. All right. So that's also there. That at least you could see the proof of it. So that's also something. That's great that you could at least explore. That's how you carry forward whatever you get exposed to in the class. You carry it forward after the class, and you're able to see that. Yes, yes, yes. Interview does not happen out of the blue. Interview is something. like, interview is just a mark. It's like the examiner is stamping, yes, proved, and the child should be inducted in the services. It's like just stamping, approving, and sending. But that approval comes from the behavior that we inculcate every single day, 365 days, okay, throughout the year. So the choice of words we have, like for example, just few minutes back a child asked, listening to this specific statement, that intimidation, what does the word intimidation mean? This is a very interesting aspect, because this is the mark of a curious student, that if I'm listening to a new word, what does it imply? So either the child is writing it down, like while listening to the session, and later finding the meaning, or someone listening to the word penalty marks, finding it out later after the class, that is it true, how far is it true, who all are the sufferers, how this child got amazing marks, could have been in the services but could not make it because of the penalty marks. So when you are like reflecting upon what is taught in the class and introspecting upon it, that also shapes you continuously, because this is the only set of formal conversation happening with you throughout the day. With parents, friends, you don't have that kind of formal conversation. So this is the window in which you can have a formalized thought process, a formal exposure to language, and a sense of, I would say, engagement, which builds upon your personality. And ethics takes care of it in a very big way. So all the indicative suggestions that I give you, start working upon it. Just pay attention to the language you speak. If you are not very proficient in your speech, then once you prepare a subtopic, try to speak that topic in a paraphrased manner before the mirror, so that it gives you clarity about your, like I would say, diction, pronunciation, choice of language, like, framing of sentence. Bit by bit you will start gaining confidence. First you will work on theoretical aspects, factual topics, factual explanation. Bit by bit you will start taking up opinion based questions. What if the examiner asks this, how will I respond? So first you will frame the concept and then you will speak. So if you are doing this practice every single day on little topics, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, while you are bathing or brushing, or like, you are eating, a bit of mental exercise, that will create alertness in your personality. And every day you will be practicing about do's and don'ts, how to present yourself, to think, to choose your language, to formalize your expression. And definitely that will have an amazing impact the day you are finally appearing in the interview. Because interview is not something which is trained only in mock exams, when we do mock drills or mock interview sessions, right? Students travel from all parts of India and take these mock interviews. No, not just this. This is also there. But this is what, like, within a week or within a month, you cannot shape a child. The child has already been shaped over the years. Corrections can happen when something is made with a continual effort for months together or weeks together. So that's why the values that you are studying right now, and the next chapter of aptitude and foundational values for civil services, try not to have only an academic understanding, try to imbibe it in your personality in totality, so that the language and thought behind the chapter inspires you through and through. It impacts your thought process, your language, as you speak or think before others. All right. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about this given dimension further ahead, um, uh, that's good. That's good, Nitesh, if you are doing that. Very good. Okay. So now, with respect to this, when we are talking about social control, so social control is what? It is a behavior which is associated with controlling or imposing, like do's and don'ts, some kind of corrective action. Okay. So that will be like more like an external locus of control. It can be in the form of a punishment, in the form of ostracization, like people avoiding to talk or interact or be with the person. Now, before I take Heinz dilemma for all of you, so with respect to this, when you all are able to understand this, the types of values, you can also understand the source of values. Okay, so maybe I can just add one more slide, and so we can take up the subsegment pertaining to sources of values. So when we are talking about sources of values, we can see that value development is a continuous, this is what I have been speaking right now, so I'm just giving language to it. So value development is a continuous, cumulative, because you are accumulating, consolidating, like insights from all sources, right? So it is a continuous, cumulative, and highly interdependent process. Interdependent process, because you're learning it from other people, right? Interdependent process, touching upon all aspects of the personality. Touching upon all aspects of the personality, right? So, and there are a lot of factors which affect the structure of values. So we can see the factors can be both natural factors as well as environmental factors. And when we are talking about environmental factors, that becomes the most important, we can say, aspect. Well, natural factors also impact our value system. Like, for example, our gender reality can impact, our geographical location can impact, we can consider our physical ability or our physical caliber can impact. Okay, so all that is also there. So but mostly we can see that the value structure is impacted by our environment, the social environment in which we are trained or brought up. So when we are talking about this given possibility here, we can talk about the the theory of moral development, moral development, as it was discussed by Lawrence Kohlberg. So, Kohlberg का concept, theory of moral development, when we are speaking of it, so the six stages discussed by Kohlberg, right? So, the six stages of moral development when we are talking about it. So, to explain the six stages, first and foremost, I'm going to discuss the Heinz dilemma. Okay. So, to explain this, he discussed he discussed the case study of Heinz dilemma. Heinz dilemma. Oh, he discussed the case study of Heinz dilemma. Right. Now, so what is Heinz dilemma case study? This is what is it. So you can see there is this cartoon like structure which all of you can see. So there is a story like narrative which Lawrence Kohlberg shares. So you all can see that there is this man whose wife is very sick and she is lying over here, you can see that, and she needs a specific medication, only that medicine can save her. So this man, he is going to church, he is praying for her recovery, and then he, the like she says that the medicine is very expensive, the doctor, she says, shares that the medicine is very expensive, so you try to manage the medicine somehow. He goes to the church, he prays to God and says that, oh my God, from where to get $2,000? That's so much of amount. I don't even have that amount. So from where to manage $2,000, God, overnight? It's such a huge amount for me. And I don't want to even lose my wife. And the doctor says that if she is given that medicine, she'll be completely recovered. She'll be completely cured. So in that situation, you all can see that uh, when this person goes to the chemist and the chemist is suggesting that I need $2,000, he tries to explain that, please, I can give you $1,000 right now, I can manage $1,000, and if you can just give me the medicine, loan the medicine to me, and as my wife is saved, I will keep giving you rest of the payment in small installments. So the chemist refuses. He is like, no, I have developed this medicine, this is an exclusive exclusive product of my R&D, and I have developed like this medicine with a lot of hard work. So I'm not here to do charity. I will charge $2,000, nothing less than that. I don't care from where people are getting the money, and I am going to charge that specific amount. So if you have the money, you take the medicine. You don't have the money, you just please leave, because there are so many people who will keep coming. If I'm doing charity, how will I work on the future R&D of other medicines? So the person refuses. Now this person, like at night, the person thinks that that somehow I need the medicine, so he goes and he steals the medicine. And after stealing the medicine, the person is able to give the medicine to his to the doctor, and his wife is completely recovered, she is completely fine. Now the question is that if you are Heinz and if you are exposed to this given situation, okay, so now my question is, what would you do in such a scenario? Suppose you have to steal the medicine and there is no other way to like recover your partner or your parent, whosoever is dying. So what will you go ahead with? Suppose you're not getting a loan. Okay. What will you go ahead with in this given situation? Yes, after stealing the medicine, what will be your further course of action? What will be your further course of action once the person is healed? How are you going to further respond to the situation? You have stolen, so you have not paid the price for it, right? So what are you going to do? So it is up to the fate of life, so you are going to leave it. Okay, some people are suggesting that they will return the money. Can it be linked to determination of ethics? Well, no, right now we are not connecting it with that. Pulkit, please pay attention to the question. I'm asking something else. We'll pay the amount, but I mean, like, you'll pay the amount and the person will get you arrested. That because so that it is detrimental for the society. No other person seeks, I would say, inspiration from you and starts stealing. So obviously, this will become a police case and a person will get arrested, right? So in this situation, like because you did not get a loan, no one is ready to extend a loan to you. That's a huge amount, and so some people are saying that we'll surrender, come what may. Pay later is inviting again, like going to the police. There is no other way out. Okay, so I'll come back some other day and pay it. Okay, you are. I believe all of you are aware that the day you are going to pay, you are also going to get arrested, right? So pay it, and when I will have enough, or else you'll pay the needy. Okay, so the cycle of goodness you are trying to create. After getting arrested, सह लेंगे थोड़ा. Oh, okay, fine. I will spend the same amount to help other needy people. Okay, all right. Go to the chemist, return the money and confess. All right, all right. Pay the amount and inform the police about this, and get some punishment. All right. I may surrender to the chemist even though like arrested. Okay, all right, all right. Left money on the counter. Okay, so someone will secretively leave a note along with sorry and along with the money. All right, that's also quite, I would say, articulate and intelligent. All right. So I've stolen the money, so I'll accept my crime, repay the amount, bear the punishment. Okay, all right, fine. So almost similar kind of responses is what I can see with majority of you are talking about now. So through this narrative of Heinz dilemma, Lawrence Kohlberg exposed us to the stages of moral development. In the stages of moral development, we all can see that there are, we can say, six stages. Thus there are six stages of moral development when we speak of it. So you like the diagram is the same, this diagram and this diagram is one and the same. It's just that few words extra were given over here, few words extra were given over here. I wanted to club the two. For example, in this diagram we can see the age range, which is not given over here. Okay, age का range नहीं लिखा हुआ, इसलिए age range के वजह से I picked this one first. Okay, the level, you can see there are six stages. You can see the six stages are mentioned here also. You can see that stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, stage 6, right? And this is something which all of you can see, right? So this is the six stages. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Description of the act is given, which is like all of you can see that, right? So and this level 1, 2 and 3, with like this is considered as level 1, this is considered as level 2, and this is considered as level 3. Okay, so that's what we can consider. So like what is it all about when we are clubbing or combining the two? Okay, so with respect to it, when we are like substantiating the stages of moral development, and when we are connecting it with the, like we can consider levels of development related to an individual's life, how we decide the chronology of these type of pictures. No worries, you can read it ulta. अब अखिलेश ऐसे पढ़ लो, यहाँ पे अगर क्रोनोलॉजी सोचना है तो ऐसे सोचो भी, एकदम सही है, उसका चोरी हुआ है, फिर केमिस्ट के पास क्या, कुछ भी समझ लो, है ना, मजा आ जाएगा वैसे भी समझने में। लेकिन बस ये कि इट वोंट बी एक्सप्लेनिंग हाइंस डायलेमा। Now, with respect to this, it will also depend on the punishment which will be given. Like in India, there'll be less punishment, but in Arab, the person will never surrender. Okay, yeah, there can be difference in punishment also, differing from place to place. So, become police and pay the chemist, will fear to complain about theft. Haha. Okay, that's also an interesting way. You know what? The responses that all of you are bearing is associated with the stage of moral development that you have, according to Lawrence Kohlberg. Now, you need to understand in which stage of development you are. Okay. So, first and foremost, when we are like, let me take one of them. So, like, let us say when we are talking about level 1, which is associated with pre conventional morality. So, in the stage of pre conventional morality, people are motivated primarily by the rewards and the punishments. Okay, there is constantly the sense of right and wrong is determined by the component of reward and punishment. You try to avoid punishment, and you try to like work towards it. So when, like, we are talking about stage 1 is primarily associated with 3 to 4 years, and stage 2 is associated with children between 6 to 7 years. So at a younger age, there is obedience, and along with obedience you try to avoid punishment. Obedience is just for avoiding punishment. So according to a child who's 3 years old or 4 years old, the child knows that I should have a behavior which doesn't raise a brow. Like for my parents, the parents should not have furrowed brows, means ऐसे करके नहीं उनको देखना होता है, and I should behave in a specific manner that my parents are constantly smiling, they are not getting angered, triggered, encouraged to beat me up. Okay, so the child will always try to obey only in the fear of punishment in the initial stage. So whatever leads to wrong, the child will be avoiding it. All right. The stage 2, which is like after the child grows up a little, I'll be talking about my opinion little later, Payal. First, understand the stages, and then you'll understand what ought to be done. Okay. So over here in stage 2, we can see that when we are talking about the component of rewards, we can see that a child, as the child starts growing, the child tries to be a conformist, so that the child gets reward. So why am I studying? I'm studying so that I get a candy, I get a chocolate, so that I'll get a cycle. I'm studying because I'll get this, I'll get that. So a child in the aspiration of reward is constantly behaving as a conformist, not because the child has a sense of morality that, oh, I am doing this because this is what should be done, I am doing this because this is the right thing to do. The child is no Yudhishthira. Please understand that, right? Yesterday we were talking about it, why to be moral, remember? Yeah. So here a person is behaving in a proper manner because of fear of reward or punishment. That's why it is called pre-conventional morality. Pre-conventional morality means before morality is established in us, before morality is formed in our thought and heart. So this is the pre-stage, the before stage, before the conventions hold our heart, hold our conscience, hold our psyche, before the sense of right and wrong starts getting established in us with logic, before the logic emerges, before the sense of right and wrong emerges in us. All right. So this is what you need to understand. Then comes the next stage, that is level 2, that is conventional morality, means doing as per the convention, behaving as per the standard. Okay, so views of others matter to you in this situation, you want to avoid any kind of blame, and you are constantly seeking approval. So this can be associated with again two stages, stage 3 and stage 4. Stage 3 is something which you possess when you are almost 12, 13 years of age, and stage 4 is somewhat like 15 to 17 years of age. Again, let me share this. Some people, नहीं some नहीं लिखना चाहिए, मुझे majority लिखना चाहिए. Just a second. Majority freeze at this stage. Freeze. आया freeze आ क्यों लिख दिया? So majority freeze at this stage. Remember this, that majority freeze at this stage, the fourth stage, though it is like 15 to 16 years. Now, stage 5 may be associated with like growing adults like 21, 22, or it may not happen in individuals' lives. So, when we are talking about it, let us see how it unfolds. So, like stage 3 is like good intentions. Good intentions, like behaving in a way that you come across as having good behavior, conformist behavior, proper behavior, right? So, that is something associated with the stage 3, whereby you are just avoiding any kind of blame, any kind of punishment. In stage 4, you are obedient to the authority. The authority can be the society, the state, the larger community, the extended kinship member, anything. So obedience is to the authority, and you are giving importance to the fact that one should always at all times perform one's duty. So doing one's duty is something that you give importance to, that this is what I should be dealing with. So why am I saying that majority of the people like get stuck at this situation? You will understand when you are understanding this third one, that is level 3, post conventional morality. Post means after. So after the convention means the conventions that are set, that you are exposed to, when you can move ahead of it, when you can think beyond it, that is post conventional morality. So in this, what is there? You have a sense of justice. When you have a sense of justice, you do not aspire to override other people's rights. Okay. You do not try to override obedience of laws, rules, regulations. So anyone thinking that hut usko kya pata chala uska kisne churaya, right? If someone thought that no one has really come to know, the chemist has already made so much of money, so if one vial of medicine is missing, what difference does it make? And it's already stolen, and if he comes to know I have taken it unnecessarily, I'll be punished. So it's okay. If no one has heard, it's okay. I will avoid punishment, I will avoid any kind of possibility. So the person is like, still in stage 3, stage 4, irrespective of the fact whether the person is 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, whatsoever. Because the person is only behaving as per approval, what is right, what is wrong. I should be accepted in the society. I should be considered as an honest person, up to mark person, right person, good person. So the person is continually behaving as per the social approval. The person is not behaving as per, we can consider, guided by one's inner morality. When the person gets guided by an inner morality, the person is like, okay, I will surrender to the police. Injustice has happened, the person has lost something, and it was because of my consciously performed crime. So I will inform the police, I will inform this individual, I'll pay the punishment, I'll pay the fine, and I will pay the total amount with fine, and I'll also bear the punishment. So that's like kind of a stage 5 behavior, whereby you are able to understand that it's not only the legal right of the person that is broken, but also morally you performed something wrong. So you are like, recognizing the rules, and you are open to the possibility that yes, I will surrender, so that the value of right and wrong is reinforced in the society, so that the like truth is reinforced in the society. There is a crime free society, and no one gets motivated to perform such a crime. So that's something which you are still thinking from the perspective of stage 5. When you start thinking like a stage 6 person, okay, you start thinking like not just seeing your problem as your problem, you start seeing it from the larger picture. that there can be a lot of people who can be stuck up in my situation or similar to my situation, who do not have enough money. The chemist is also correct that the chemist also needs money because the person has to spend on R&D. But how about the vulnerable sections or poorer sections who cannot afford the medicine? They also need some time bound intervention. So in that situation, this person, like, which probably, like, you could have thought of, but that is something which comes with stage 6. Okay, so the stage 6, in that, what do you do? In stage 6, you are able to, I would say, write to the Ministry of Health, write to the Department of Health, write to the state government, write to the DM, write to other, like, senior officials, write to some international NGOs, that this is a critical medicine, it is ever needed. R&D related to this was not supported. So the person who has manufactured the medicine also deserves to profiteer. So how about like compensating the person enough, and also creating in limited batches some generic version of the medicine, and the poorer sections from the government hospitals, they can be prescribed the generic version, and the cost of the generic version can be paid, it can be borne by the state. Okay, and not everyone has easy access to that generic version, because then the monopoly, or we can say the patent which the chemist is holding, he will lose that. So the chemist also doesn't feel that, oh, I'm going to lose my patent, because in the larger market the medicine will not be available. The chemist is also heavily compensated by the government for producing the limited batches of subsidized medicine. Okay, the patented medicine, which is also produced in a generic version, so that the poorer sections can afford it. So that will be a win-win situation for all. So a person who can see the intensity of crisis from not personal perspective, but also can see the larger picture of the problem, such a person comes with out of box solutions, solutions which do not exist in the society, laws which do not exist, morality which is not practiced. And when such people make an effort, they create new value systems for the society, they create new possibilities for the society, they create new rules and regulations for the society, they offer easier possibility of existence for all. Okay, so when we are talking about, but does it usually come with loss, Mona Lisa? How about remembering Mahatma Gandhi? Mohandas became Mahatma only when he experienced the stress in Durban. Think about it, right? When we are talking about Abraham Lincoln, he was never initially in favor of doing away with racist laws, going ahead with anti-racist laws, propagating equality for all, democracy for all. But Abraham Lincoln, when he was pushed into a situation where he had to decide, then he took a decision in favor of all, doing away with any form of or any practice of racism per se. So you have to understand this given dimension. Stage 6 doesn't come easy. When Jyotiba Phule and Savitri Bai Phule were walking down the street, common people were spitting on them. Common people were even throwing human excreta on them, and not once, multiple days, week after week, month after month, year after year. Oh, here is going the couple who's going to educate girls, here is the couple who's aspiring to bring transformation by making our girls educated, as if they have to make collectors out of them. What will our girls do after getting educated? If they are very educated, how many grooms will marry them? Do people need educated brides? So the society was dismissing, critical, and even caustic. Caustic means zehar ya aag jab aapke muंह से निकल रहा हो, ठीक है? So the society was even caustic towards Jyotiba Phule and Savitri Bai Phule, towards their intervention for girl child education. Yet they continued. So you will see that a lot of people who are in stage 6, they are guided by their own conscience, their own sense of right and wrong, and their broader understanding of right and wrong shapes the human society. Like people who thought against slavery. Okay, Raja Ram Mohan Roy thinking against sati, thinking about widow remarriage. I mean, so many people dismissed it. Oh my God, हमारे culture खराब कर रहा है. अब विडोज फिर से शादी करेंगी, मतलब कैसा अनाचार, कैसा पाप, what like blot on our culture. This boy is talking about widows getting remarried. Think about today's society. So many such things, like let's say someone's parent opposing intercaste marriage. In the neighborhood, someone has done intercaste marriage and parents are so agitated, like, we'll not talk to them. They are human beings. They chose their partner. That's a normal act. But suppose like someone has got into some kind of intercaste marriage within the family, okay, and people are boycotting. And suppose if you rationalize it before your parents, they are like, yeah, nowadays it's common, so much of harsh punishment or so much of strict boycotting is not needed necessarily. Suppose the parents say, then you are asking that, oh, but why don't you oppose? Then you should be nice to them, like, अब क्या करें, हम भी समाज में ही रहते हैं, इसी समाज में रहना है, उठना है, चलना है. Are you getting it? So when such a explanation is given, that I have to live in the society, so how can I oppose the norms of the society, even if logically I'm understanding that the practices or norms of the society are illogical. The belief systems of the society which are practiced pertaining to untouchability, caste based discrimination, religious discrimination are illogical, even if someone's parents are saying this in private quarter. Okay, but they are scared to face it in the public. What will my relatives say? What will the larger society say? What will my neighbors consider? So they are in stage 4. I'm doing just to seek approval from the society. I'm doing things to avoid blame from the society. From stage 4, those people have not been able to evolve. Congratulations, Prerna. I wish you were in front of me. I would have shaken hands with you. मतलब आउट ऑफ द ब्लू आकर और बिल्कुल टपक कर ये जो क्वेश्चन पूछना, डेफिनेशन ऑफ एटीट्यूड, मतलब इस पे बस बेटा मन कर रहा है ना तुमसे गले मिलकर तुम्हें चूम लूं, इतने जबरदस्त क्वेश्चन पूछने के लिए. तुम्हें अंदाजा भी नहीं है कि क्या डिस्कशन चल रहा है एंड व्हाट यू आर मिसिंग आउट, राइट? So, I mean, this level of intellect like radiates the class. Suddenly, we all are shining with so much of energy and aura after seeing such a question. Definition of attitude, and definition ka spelling bhi galat. Okay, anyway, so rest of you who are in soaked in the concept when we are talking about stages of moral development, okay, so with respect to this, when we are talking about this stage 6, so stage 6 of moral development is something which is rare in the society. In stage 4, you are able to understand what is morally correct, and what is morally correct, it may be different from what is legally correct. So legally you are accepting the crime, you are going for the punishment, but morally also you are realizing that what you did was setting a wrong example for society. So you are not seeing that when you are doing a theft it is only illegal, you are also seeing that it is immoral, it is setting a wrong example. So awareness of the problem, awareness of the intensity of the problem, that it's not just the rules, regulations that are broken, it is also the morals which are defied. So, recognition that rules, okay, recognition of the fact that yes, rules are broken and what is morally correct, what is what ought to be there. And also, another thing, that sometimes for creating a new possibility, if we have to bend, if we have to bend the existing rules and regulations, so be it. Like for example, in Saudi Arabia till 2006 women were not driving, so it was not a part of their rules and regulation. But if a minister considered, or if, like, let's say, some human rights activist considered that what if it is not a part of our rules and regulations? It should exist. So when you are aware that something is not a part of your rule and regulation, but thinking it from moral perspective that anyone and everyone should be capable to drive, what if the male member of the family is not there and someone is critically ill and the woman needs to drive and take the person to the hospital? Or in general, also for the sake of safety, movement, and other concerns, a woman should know how to drive. So, why to restrict women from driving? So, the moment you start questioning that the existing rules and regulations, how far like good they are, how fair they are, and sometimes bending the rules is fine, that is the first entry to stage 5. That's the first entry. In stage 6, you are completely guided by your inner conscience. Your conscience is illuminating you with the insight and idea associated with what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so that is something which is associated with your moral decision. It is associated with your conscience. It guides humanity to new solutions. Okay, so probably, for example, I'm writing Gandhi. You can think of like Lincoln. You can think of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, right? So, and when we are speaking of it, you should also know that with respect to this given statement, when we are talking about it, so this is what you should do, or this is what you ought to do. This is what you ought to do. This is what you ought to do. Okay, so that's something which, like, probably I can encourage. So at this stage, what happens? Universal ethics. This is the stage of universal ethics. Okay. Behavior is driven by internal moral principles. Behavior driven by internal moral principles. Behavior is driven by internal moral principles when we speak of it. All right. So this is what प्लीज टेल व्हाई अच्छा एसएमई से पूछा है तो ठीक है जय नारायण सो बिहार आईएएस ऑफिसर राहुल शर्मा tried to reduce the stigma of eating food cooked by widows. Yes, and not just the stigma of eating food cooked by widows but also a scheduled caste lady, because the village started ostracizing and boycotting, and they said that our children will not go to the school and have midday meal. So there was pressure over this IAS officer that whether to make a scheme successful and remove the cook, or rather the staff who was fixing the midday meal. But then there was a reverse, or a counter possibility, that there is women empowerment involved, there was empowerment of a widow involved, there was empowerment of the scheduled caste involved. So how to go ahead with this possibility? And the widow, she was also, like, it was considered that she is practicing witchcraft. If someone eats the food, the person will die. So he went there, he sat down politely, he requested that, madam, can you cook food? She prepared the food, he sat down and he started eating. He's like, if I am alive and if I am good, I think your children will also be fine. And that's how he broke the social, we can say, myth, and he also, like, incorporated this very possibility of change. So stage 6, please remember, it does not happen easily. It takes an effort, it needs some moral courage to defy the pre-existing norms and what is popular in the society, what is generally accepted in a society. All right. So finally, stage 6 is more appropriate, but other can also be thought of. Yeah, majority of the people, when we are talking about it, are stuck in stage 4. Remember that. It is only when you start further evolving, when your stage of moral development, according to Lawrence Kohlberg, happens, it's that then only that you move to stage 5 or stage 6. All right. So I hope all of you are getting, like, bit by bit exposed to the given insight pertaining to stages of moral development, and how Lawrence Kohlberg, through his concept of Heinz dilemma, gives this insight that at which stage we are standing and in what possibilities we ought to be there. So as we are discussing about the sources of values of moral development, so one is our inner conscience. This is coming from our inner conscience. Inner conscience acting as a source of value. Inner conscience as a source of value development. After this, we can further reflect upon family, educational institutions, and society as a source of value development. So it is 7:49. We are taking a 15 minutes break. Okay. So we shall be back after the break. All right, welcome back, all of you. So, can you please connect and explain the stages with Heinz dilemma? Well, that was what was dealt with Zeba just before the break. So, I mean, like people who are resorting to not disclosing, I mean, like, and I said that people who said that I will not disclose and I or thought that they will not disclose and they'll just keep the medicine, they are somewhere in the like, the possibility of stage 3 or stage 4. People who will think that okay, I'll own up the crime so that a good social conduct is established, not just that I have broken the law, I've set a wrong example for the society, are people of stage 5. And stage 6 was associated with finding a long term solution for majority who might be needing such a medicine. Okay, that's what Abin and all the students who would be feeling that like, what I'm explaining is so like simplified and so easy to connect and to like perceive. Please try to understand, like suppose if I'm taking Indian society or social justice, so I won't be talking the same things which is given in your NCRT book, or if you're reading Ram Mahuja, you'll see that the content discussed in the session will be very different from what would be discussed in the basic NCRT book or any other textbook that you read for Indian society or social justice, because the funda is very simple. The concept is this, that give the child the basic precursor to the topic, but at the same time give an exposure how to think, how to evolve with the concept and all the possible dynamics associated with the given chapter. But I won't be like repeating the segments, I would say what is given in the book. I won't be repeating it, so that when you're reading the book, it is also a thought provoking journey and a joyous ride. And all those students who are like, what ma'am is teaching exactly same word, sentence or concept or example, why is it not given in the book? Because the book will be dealing with the same topic academically and differently. I am discussing it with other academic references but under the same topic. So like, let's say sources of values, when I am discussing it, you'll find distinct examples and distinct possibilities, whereas in the book there will be other examples of sources of values. Or for example, if I'm discussing about consequences of ethics, okay, so positive consequences of ethics, or in the absence of ethics what negative consequences are there, or if I'm talking about determinants of ethics, okay, then that is something which the way I will be discussing it will be quite distinct and different from what you find in the book. So in the book you have to read the topic associated with what are the determinants of ethics, sources of ethics, dimensions of ethics, okay, ethics in public relation, private relation, and you'll find that the discussion in the book will be different. So those students who are experiencing this given dimension or this given challenge, that what we are reading in the class we are able to perceive it but we are unable to find it in the book, or in which chapter will that be discussed, the same thing which I am discussing will not be discussed in the book, because my academic examples are different or distinct from what is published in the book, so that the book adds quality to your understanding. It's not one and the same repetitive content what is being spoken. And this is the standard protocol that ought to be followed subject after subject, because what is being taught in the class, if the same thing is written in the book, how did the lecture really empower, and what was the importance of the lecture? Because even without the lecture a child could have learnt it from the book, isn't it? So the purpose of the lecture is to create a stepping stone and also to create a vision how to interpret the dimensions. All right. So the question which you had asked Abin, I hope that's clear, right? Now, with respect to this, like the values are static, but now value is changing. As previously, value attached with women to cook food and feed family, but now it is male member. Yeah, I mean, like we can consider that values generally remain static, um, due to us due to any kind of, we can say, tremendous shift, like the society tremendously shifted from, we can say, agrarian society to post industrial society, and that is how the role of women got redefined. That is how intellectual caliber was celebrated, and that's how the value redefined itself. So I hope you can understand. um, Students who said that they will surrender, they were stage 5 people, that they will surrender and they will, because no one was knowing that they were the ones who like committed the crime, but they wanted to fix not only the law and order but also the moral compass of the society. So I said that they fall under stage 5 category, Deepika. Okay, now anyway, I'm just getting back to this. um as per stage 6, what is the solution? Let it be die, then protest? Huh? No. Stage 6 was associated with reaching out to the various departments, reaching out to various sources, so that a generic version is available, so that some subsidized level is available, or the government pays an amount, a part of that medicine, so that the person, the customer, the vulnerable section has to only bear a little part of it. Okay, that was the solution. And if the person has already committed the crime, other than surrendering to the police or other than accepting the crime, the person should also make an effort how to solve this problem for future concerns, for future generations or other people who might experience the victimization. Okay, anyway, let us move ahead, because this is just a theory. Okay, this is just a theory which gives you an idea. What is the purpose of discussing it? The purpose of discussing it is that inner conscience also acts as a source of moral development or value development. Okay, so that is something which was discussed in terms of like Lawrence Kohlberg's concept of stages of moral development. Further, as we move ahead, SME, kindly support with all the other miscellaneous queries, because I've taken the queries for almost like 6-7 minutes now. Now, so sources of values, when we are talking about it, so first we can reflect it from the perspective of the family. So when we are talking about family, we can see that if like a child learns a lot of behavior from the parents, because family, when we are talking about it, it is the first informal agency, informal agency of socialization, first informal agency of socialization. So the way parents talk, that is how a child learns to talk. The way parents have an opinion about caste, religion, region, that's how children also form their opinion related to caste, religion and region. Again, we can understand that if, like, parents are pro to violate traffic rules, and a child is sitting behind or sitting next to the parent and is seeing that the parents are just seeing that the constable is not there, no other vehicle is there, and very swiftly they are breaking the traffic rule, the child will also subconsciously learn to break the traffic rule, because the child learns the value systems from the parents. If the child is raised in an authoritative environment, the child will not respect democracy. The child will be like believing that once in a while coercive action is necessary. For example, in South Asian societies, you will see this phenomena unfold. In South Asian societies, you all will notice that it is constantly endorsed, it is constantly glorified, that we should be in a situation, we should be in a possibility whereby you know uh, this is the possibility that is glorified, that we should be in a given scenario whereby once in a while some autocratic behavior should be exercised to cull crime. That's why in South Asian societies you will see that there is a dominance of right wing governments or coercive governments or autocratic or authoritarian governments, or governments which are relatively more coercive. Like you can see, like in China, there is a coercive pattern of governance. In Singapore, the rules and regulations are so strict. The moment you violate them, either you are put for imprisonment on an average 2 years, 5 years, something like that. You can see the same in Malaysia. You can see in Philippines, there is right-wing government. So on an average, when children are raised in an authoritative environment, the tendency to have an inclination towards leaders or rulers who are autocratic in nature, even if it is a democratic government, to choose a leader who's authoritative, autocratic in nature, who can be coercive, who can get things done even by force, people will enjoy that and people will support that, because since childhood they were trained that by beating things can be fixed. So violence is subconsciously supported, and in that situation, amongst adults, the acceptance of democracy as a vital political value may not be fixed in a wholesome manner when we are speaking about this given dimension, right? Again, further, when we are talking about the same with respect to it, we can also substantiate something more with respect to this. So, and please remember, whatever I'm discussing, all these basic concepts you will find in the book. Okay, but when it comes to specific examples that I give, some extra dimensions and perspectives I give, it will always be a qualitative value addition to what you read in the book. Don't try to equate and match the same. This will apply even in social issues class. What I'll be teaching and explaining, you'll find it far above and far different, though simplified, but still different from what you find in NCRT books or Ramanuja. Okay, because that's the USP of a lecture. I mean, a lecture should be adding quality as well as approach and vision to you. Remember that. All those students who are like reflecting upon the session, don't try to see that every single word I speak and concept I speak is just the same with the right set of same examples in the book. Then what is the purpose of the session? Huh? So learn something extra from here, connect the basics from the book as well, revise it thoroughly. Now, so when we are talking about this with respect to the role of family, so we can see that it is the first informal agency of socialization. Our idea of right and wrong, our idea associated with like values like democratic value. So in political scenario, we can see this in our day-to-day life issues like traffic rules, the way we talk about bad things, the way we talk about a caste, a religion, all these values are fixed in a child's heart by the family. The issue of gender, okay, the issue associated with cleanliness, all this is something which we learn from our parents. If we see that our parents are throwing garbage or littering garbage on the street, the child, as the child grows up, will also develop the same habit, eat it and throw it like somewhere over there. So that's the problem which all of you will be observing. Now, with respect to this sources of value, as we are discussing about family, so there is this specific example that I'm going to give you, that is orphanage studies. Okay, so studies in the orphanage studies, it was found that like the behavior of children, okay, um, or rather comparison, I should write comparison of behavior of children with and without parents, with and without parents. So like children who had, like, if I'm saying with parents, okay, so children with parents, what was their behavior? So they were emotionally more stable, emotionally more stable. We can see they were more confident, more responsive. They were more, we can consider, along with being more responsive, maybe I should just clean this up, more responsive. They were like more optimistic, and they were ready to face the challenge in life. So, ready to counter challenges in life. Okay, so it was found out that it was important for children to have parents. The same was proved by contact comfort studies. In the contact comfort studies, also, the same situation was found out. So, in contact comfort studies, what was found out that, like, First and foremost, the monkey babies were studied. So when the monkey babies, you can see the image given over here, it is also called Harrow's monkeys. Okay, so it was shown that how physical attachment to parents and the physical fondling, cuddling, hugging, kissing of parents is very important for the healing of the child, the sense of security and comfort in a child, the sense of belongingness in a child when we speak of it. Okay, so when we are speaking of a monkey, we all can connect with this, that a monkey baby which like had mother and was constantly being cuddled by the mother, such a monkey baby was relatively having a more stable personality, was having, like, was exhibiting a better responsible behavior as that baby was growing up. The baby exhibited greater leadership in its own group. Okay, it was relatively more confident in front of the opposite sex. So all this was experienced in this contact comfort studies. Okay, so in the similar manner, for human children also, it was seen that contact comfort was essential. It was essential, especially when the human child is hurt, scared. Here you can see this child is feeling like this child is sitting in isolation, and the child is looking so disturbed, lost, and scared. I mean, just by seeing this child, you feel like just normalizing and cooling the child. You feel like feeding it well. You feel like taking it out for a walk. You feel like, just loving the child well, right? So when we are speaking about these possibilities associated with the contact comfort study, which also can be connected with the orphanage study, we can see that family plays a very crucial role in developing our basic values pertaining to how we are responding to the society, how we are engaging with the society in general when we are speaking of it. Okay, so being raised in an orphanage, um, different kinds of attitude. Students of the orphanage were not so optimistic and used to cry over little bit of issue. Yes, that's why, because the tendency of being scared, the tendency of being hurt, because the emotions which, when you are, I would say, Azhar, when you are as a child, I would say the kind of um, insecurities that holds a child at a young age, which might sound very trivial from adult perspective, अरे इतनी छोटी सी बात, but the truth is, for a child it is exponentially big. And in those moments, if some adult is able to hold the child, comfort the child, give the right kind of thought process, give the right kind of, we can say, advice and emotion, in such a situation you can witness, you can see that a child is duly taken care of, and you can also see that, like, the possibility of the possibility of healing and nurturing the child is easier. So that's why having adults in life who can hold you, especially in moments of hurt, in moments of being scared, in moments of unfamiliar situation, it's very essential that there is an adult to reassure, to just be there and give that sense of confidence and that sense of comfort and belongingness. Yeah. So we all are saying that we will surrender. Looks like we are at stage 5. If really we were in the situation, yes, majority of the people would have resorted to stage 4, Manoj. But let us move ahead, right? And let us move ahead and like reflect upon another chapter and another subtopic of the chapter, right? So when we are talking about the child rearing practices, as I shared with all of you over here, that the child rearing practices okay, in a family determines what kind of attitudes we would possess towards democracy. So why have I written B? Towards democracy and towards authoritarian rule. It also determines, like, our values related to equality, fraternity, our values associated with justice, right? So we are able to develop all these insights accordingly. Well, see, parents are the first role model for children. And in Mahabharata, Krishna said that parents, if they want to really secure the future of their child, but in the process, if they forget to build the character, their own character, they cannot fix a child later. And that is something which he spoke with reference to Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra, when he was speaking of it with respect to when he was lamenting how come his sons are behaving unethically. So for that, like why Kauravas were behaving in such a manner, so for which like he spoke like that. Okay. Again, when we are talking about it, okay, before we reflect upon the component of types of family, we can understand this given dimension with respect to a few other examples as well. Like for example, you must have heard this, "Poot ka poot to kya dhan sanchay, poot sa poot to kya dhan sanchay," means if you have a ethically upright child, you don't need to like create a lot of property, because the child will be capable to fulfill his or her needs with his or her own efforts. And if the child is a corrupt child, if the child is unethical, even if you have created a lot of property, that's not going to truly help the child in the long run, because the child will exercise some unethical behavior, because of which the basic possibilities can be damaged or challenged. In the similar manner, we can think of, like, let's say, the possibilities related to Ram and Duryodhana. So, Ram, when we are talking about it, he got everything, and still he was ready to leave it when his brother was also prohibiting him from leaving. And like, everyone in the kingdom was telling him not to leave and go for an exile. He was ready to leave everything and go. At the same time, Duryodhana, he like got everything, because he was not ready to even leave 5 villages for his cousins, for his brothers, right? So he got it all, but he left everything towards the end. He had to leave everything towards the end. So, like, the value systems with which we are nurtured, that determines our response as adults when we speak of it. Every now and then we come across some very like, I would say, shaking kind of information. Like few years back, I remember a news had come from Nangloi, where a student had stabbed the teacher to death in the class. In the similar manner, there was an incident of Ryan International School, which triggered a lot of debate across India, whereby a standard 11th child, just to postpone his test, he killed a child, a standard 1 kid in the school, just to postpone the test, nothing else. As simple as that. So just needed a holiday, and to postpone the child test, he just killed a standard 1 or a standard 2 kid. So I mean, this nature of heinous crime, this nature of possibility, it comes somewhere when the process of educating, when the process of empowering your child with values somewhere deeply fails. Similarly, our values can change with respect to the family that we belong to. Like, for example, if we belong to a business class family. So, in a business class family versus a service class family. So, in a business class family, a child will be brought up in an environment whereby risk taking behavior, like, adventurism, exploring the market, talking about, speculating about possibilities kind of attitude is developed. That is something which is associated with the business class family, versus when we speak of service class family. So in service class family, what is trained to a child is a security of job, like, routinization of environment, a fixed salary, the possibility of, like, having fixed sources of entertainment, breaks, etc. So there is more focus on a systematization of routine, systematization of life, and like working within the resources. So the values that a child gains in both types of families is different. In the similar manner, the value systems can differ as per the size of the family. If the family is nuclear family, as you can see over here, so if the family is nuclear, the value that a child inculcates can be associated with individualism, having a sense of responsibility, and such children can also be relatively introvert, because you don't have many people to talk to, and you are generally keeping things up to yourself. So there is high level of individualism, greater sense of responsibility. The person can be associated with modern values and ideals, right? Whereas in joint family, you will see that there will be patriarchal values, respect to seniors, respect to male members. In a joint family, you will be seeing that there will be always focus on sharing, because you should not consume alone. You should not, like take everything for your own self. So there is a constant attitude of sharing. And another value is that of conservatism, that whatever the seniors say is correct, irrespective of the fact it holds logic for the younger generation or not. So both types of families, nuclear family or joint family, they will come up with their own individual set of values when we speak of it. All right. Again, we can think of role of educational institutions. In fact, I have incorporated first, so role of teachers, educational institutions, and then we can see society. So role of teachers, when we speak of it, there are a lot of examples, like Aristotle. He played a very crucial role in shaping the values of Alexander, and probably that's how Alexander globally is referred as Alexander the Great. In the similar manner, G.K. Gokhale, he was the political guru of Gandhi, and in many ways he also shaped the ideals, the political ideals of Mahatma Gandhi. In modern day also, we can see that a lot of teachers can shape the possibility of a child, like how to think, how to respond to a specific situation. In fact, on and off I keep doing that, right? So, and my professors have done that to me. So when we are speaking of this given dimension, the nature that we possess towards a child, that is something which is going to also shape the ideals of a child. Suppose if a teacher is into corporal punishment, beating a child black and blue, और the parents are saying, oh आप ही का बच्चा, चाहे मारते मारते जान से मार दीजिए लेकिन पढ़ा दीजिए, ठीक है? So when corporal punishment is entertained in a given situation, you can think that how it is going to impact the value system of a child in terms of concepts related to democracy, justice, and equality. Yes, you can think of Chanakya as well when we are talking about um, this given dimension. Okay, so with respect to this, we can think of the role of, we can say, teachers in terms of shaping the value system. So you can add examples, many examples which you can come across or you can think of. Again, we can think of role of education in terms of the syllabus. So like suppose if you are reading world history, and in world history if you are reading about the French Revolution, you get exposed to values pertaining to liberty, equality, and fraternity. Suppose you are reading in world history Gandhi's journey to Pretoria, so you understand, you gain the value that one should have the courage to fight against injustice. In the similar manner, the new NCRT, it upholds the values of secularism and non-violence, right? So when you are reading literature, so in literature you come to understand human nature and how human nature gets influenced by the social values per se. If a child is studying science, a child develops the sense of curiosity and logic, that things are based on logic. I should always have a logical, critical explanation of everything, and I should be curious to ask why, what, and how related to any topic that I am exposed to. That's the mark of a curious student. In the similar manner, when we are talking about it, the textbooks, they also impart subtler values. For example, the component associated with gender, like the old NCRTs, not the new NCRT but the old NCRTs, they had examples pertaining to father taking the engendered roles pertaining to outside, and mother taking the domestic chores, taking care of the domestic chores. A girl supporting her mother in domestic chores, the boy openly freely playing outside, climbing trees, getting into adventure sports. So all this influenced the value system of children. And when transgender children were not even distantly discussed in the syllabus, the idea about trans children does not develop in children to a great age, to a great extent, to a great stage, I would say that. Again, the component is that, is value education desirable for school level? So yes, definitely value education is desirable, because if I would quote, not quote, if I give you the example of Japan. In Japan, you must be aware that children till the age of 11 years, they are not taught anything, any subject. They are only taught spirit of nationalism, patriotism, service towards elders, being nice to parents, helping them in their chores, being honest, always speaking the truth, like cleaning your environment, taking responsibility of your larger environment. So you can see that once in a week the children celebrate cleanliness day, and on cleanliness day all the children clean the school. A young kid of maybe standard 7, standard not standard 1 or standard 2, means 7 or 8 years old child might be cleaning his or her desk. A 10 or a 11-year-old child might be cleaning the wash basin. A 12 or 13-year-old child might be cleaning the toilet of the school. So everyone contributes in the cleaning exercise. In India, if such an exercise is taken up, parents will be like, what are you doing to my child? Rather than educating the child, you are making a safai karmchari out of my child. So it will backfire, such experiments in India. People will not understand the value being trained. But when you are cleaning your school, you own up your larger environment. So when such a child is going on the street, the child will not litter the street, the child will not spit on the street. So basic values pertaining to, we can say, sanitation, hygiene, punctuality, discipline, respect towards others, all this is trained. In the similar manner, the adult society takes care of children. So if the children are going to the school and they have to cross the road, and if the vehicles are able to see that children are standing on the sides of the road, means on the pavement to cross the road, then all the vehicles naturally stop. Even if there is no red light, they naturally stop. And as the children cross the street, they bow down twice or thrice in front of those vehicles as a sign of gratitude. So, these basic gestures which are trained to the children, that is something which is, I would say, an innate part of the culture, and which also shapes the value system. In the similar manner, we can see that textbooks can also generate hatred, can generate fear, can generate doubt. For example, textbooks of North Korea, they have like some kind of bitter interpretation towards South Korea, whereby children develop a negative sentiment towards South Korea. Or you can see that sometimes Pakistani textbooks can have a faulty interpretation towards India, or sometimes even in India, we can see some teachers can give a faulty interpretation towards Pakistan, right? So we can also connect it with this given dimension related to other important values which is like imparted to the children. How you can empower certain values in a children. So like for example, on birthdays, I always advise that a child should, rather than cutting the cake and all, okay, you cut the cake, you celebrate, but do take the child out for charity. Let the child hold a lot of money and understand that a lot of money can be given to others, so that the child has a bigger heart as the child is growing up. So suppose you have to do some charity of 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, you have to feed people, do anything which is like larger in size, huge in size. Let the child hold things and do things, so that the child understands that when I'm going to buy 10 rupees ke turture, then 10 rupees ke turture is possible, but and 10 rupees holds a value to purchase like a packet of kurkure. But when I have to, like, let us consider, give like 100 rupees or 200 rupees or 500 rupees to a needy by purchasing maybe a uh, like a uh, like a pair of shoes or maybe like a blanket, and I'm paying much more value than the value I would have paid to purchase a packet of kurkure. Okay, you must have seen that meme, that little kid saying that I need 10 rupees ke turture. So at that age itself, imagine, I'm talking about at that age, when the child is able to hold a lot of money, which is way more than the amount of pocket money that is given. Okay, and when the child is able to, with that amount of money, when the child is able to see that I could have purchased so many candies, so many packets of kurkure and god knows what not, I am giving much more than that money to a person who is poor, because the person needs it more. The child becomes kind, the child becomes compassionate, the child develops the value of altruism. Okay, similarly, you can see the schools take the children out for excursions and trips, especially to cultural centers, museums, and the purpose is to develop the sense of tolerance, empathy, understanding the cultural diversity, secularism in a country. Also, when you are taking children for tree plantation drives or street cleaning drives, they are associated with environmental protection. Or yoga, that is associated with bringing more clarity and semblance in one's existence when we are talking about it. Okay, so I hope all of you are able to connect with this given dimension. Again, with respect to this, prior to this, so I hope all of you are able to connect it with this given dimension of education, right? So you can see the national education policy also incorporates this in its curriculum. If you see the principles, the broader principles upheld in the new national education policy 2020, you will see there is dimension of gender justice, multilingualism, moral education, okay, plurality of thought process, acceptance of diversity. All these values you will find in the new national education policy. So it is very important that through our methods of education, we are creating greater possibilities for our children so that from a very young age, they are trained to a better thought process, right? I hope all of you are able to connect with this given sub-segment, right? So, uh, Plato had said that ethics are caught rather than taught. Okay, so ethics are caught rather than taught, and a community is the bond from which ethics is caught. So ethics are caught rather than taught. That's why there are so many ways in which I try to empower you with rather than technically teach you. I motivate you. Sometimes when some out of the blue advice also comes, or out of the blue, statements also come, you can see that rather than directly responding to it, I like meander the response so that a person is left thinking that how and why ma'am responded like this. And if the person is able to arrive at the answer, a little sneak peek to an ethical concern is raised, that oh yes, this is something which I defied. Like you all realize that when I was discussing stages of moral development of Lawrence Kohlberg, at that time a student suddenly appeared on the surface of the screen, and she texted that, can you please give the definition of attitude, suddenly out of the blue. So I was like, I just feel like, giving you a hug and a pucci, for the same reason that you were able to ask such a question out of the blue. So that was a mark of a student who went missing and suddenly resurfaced without understanding the concept. But rather than talking about punctuality, discipline, this, that, no. Sometimes you can just exercise it with compassion and make the child feel that something wrong has been done, and probably I need to rectify my behavior. So there are so many ways in which, the possibility of ethics can be communicated, and that's why Plato said that ethics can be caught from the society. So ethics can be caught rather than taught. Okay, so that's the thing, because we are constantly exposed to so many ethical principles and values that we are constantly gaining our sense of right and wrong from it. So with respect to this, when we are talking about this given dimension, we can also see that a lot of formal interventions are carried forward. Like, for example, this is how you update it with current affairs. For example, the Delhi government had started its happiness curriculum. So, in the happiness curriculum, big hoardings and boardings they had placed, that how through the happiness curriculum, a child was learning how to connect with the environment, connect with the parents, respect the parents, help them in household chores, exercise honesty. So a lot of values were trained to the children, which indirectly will lead to their happy existence, will lead to a happy state of existence, right? Similarly, in Maharashtra, a project was started that was called Mulyavardhan. Okay, in the similar manner, we can see CBSC collaborated with Ram Krishna Mission and started a program called Awakened Citizen Program. Similarly, value education programs have been incorporated for standard 7th to standard 9th children, and 16 we can say periods of value education have been added to the curriculum. So these are some basic steps that are taken towards value education through educational institutions. Again, we can see Tagore in his Shanti Niketan, like in the Shanti Niketan experiments that he held, and his Vishwa Bharati University, when we are talking about it, he focused mainly on values. Okay, And through the values he tried to inculcate some profound thought process in the future citizens of India, especially living in rural hinterland, because he focused on educating the rural people, like in terms of not just academics but also culture. So song, dance, drama, music, all of it, right? So you can connect with all this. So this is how education system plays a very crucial role or vital role in inculcating education for the next generation or the younger generation. And that's why it plays the most, like I would say, critical or vital role. See this question: if a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are three key societal members who make a difference. They are the father, the mother, and the teacher. So, the role of family and educational institution in inculcation of values is what is like asked over here, but indirectly by lifting the quotation of Sir APJ Abdul Kalam. Okay, so you had to explain what was being discussed. Okay, what was being discussed by me continually. So what I discussed in last, I would say, half an hour, that should have been picked by you and consolidated over here. All right. Like in Labasna, various cultural programs to inculcate diversity amongst civil servants. Yes, yes. So great. If it was discussed in the governance class, that's amazing. But this is associated exclusively to this chapter. You can sense it, isn't it? The father, mother, and the teacher. What is it? It is inculcation of values by family and educational institutions, right? Okay. Even in ancient Indian society, Gurukul system promoted value of equality to a certain extent. Yes. Okay. Gurukul system also promoted value of equality, because whether it was a king's son or a feudal lord's son or a merchant's son or a commoner's son, all the children were supposed to learn how to perform household chores, how to support guruma, how to support in day-to-day life activities, how to like survive in all odd situations, how to, like, learn how to manage their own life, how to light fire, how to cook. So a lot of life skills and life hacks were also trained, along with rote learning and imparting of values and other patterns associated with formal education pertaining to Shastra and Shastra. Okay. Now, so with respect to this, as we further move ahead, this is something which I have created for your self reading. So, at home, you will be reading this: ethical conflicts in cosmopolitan culture and urbanization. This is something which I have given for your homework, so that you read something extra and you develop some extra insights. Because from this area, question has not come, but what if some question is raised? Okay. So, thus and thus, this chapter is getting concluded, and we are heading to another chapter which is directly connected to this chapter when we are talking about it. Okay. So this is the homework part which I have shared, so you can just read it. And as we move to another chapter, that is aptitude and foundational values for civil services. So we are dealing with values. So we are dealing, as we are discussing about values, we move to another aspect of values. Remember, when I started with values, I said one is the values, the generalized version of universal values. Second is foundational values for civil services. So this aspect is getting started. Foundational values for civil services. So in this attitude and foundational values for civil services, as we are stepping into this given subsegment, first and foremost, I am cosmopolitan meaning. You'll find it in the material. You'll read it. As you are reading it, you will be able to understand that. Okay. It is in continuation. The PPT is in continuation, Kashish. So now, first and foremost, you can see there is this on the screen. All of you can see this dimension associated with this novel. So English August, an Indian story, and that is written by Upmanyu Chatterjee. All of you can see this, right? So when we are talking about this given dimension, English August, an Indian story, what do I imply to say? What do I want to hyphenate for all of you? So in this, like a given text, what I really want to like make you aware of is uh, um, I would say, narrative, is a story which is written by a senior IS officer called Upmanyu Chatterjee. And he, in his novel English August, he had created the character of Augustia Sen. Augustia Sen, it is considered, Augustia Sen holds certain beliefs, ideals, and I would say experiences of what Upmanyu Chatterjee lived in his life. So this fellow Augustia Sen, he prepares for civil services exam, clears the exam, becomes an IS officer, and further the story, the narrative continues. A part of the novel discusses this given dimension. The novel says, if I quote the para which is given over there, it's written something like this, that most young men in India do not realize their aptitude. In search of their career, they just keep on trying for something. They keep on trying, and someday something clicks. I am one of them. And I became an IS officer. And it is so true for the youth of India. Right? So what does this sentence imply, and what does this novel indicate when we are talking about this given dimension? Okay, so Ajay, open the book, and after opening the book that is given to you by like this given dimension, uh, are we almost finished the class? No, Jeho, why did you join the class out of the blue? I mean, were you attending the session from the beginning, Jeho? And did you connect with human values that was being taught? With respect to this, Ajay, and any other student who is experiencing this, find out if there is a chapter on human values given in your book. Find out if there is a chapter related to ethics given in your book, determinants of ethics, consequences of ethics, types of ethics, ethics in public and private relation. If these topics are there, read it. Read it and find some extra material. Nourish yourself with something extra. You aspire to become an IS officer, and you are feeling so frail and shattered like a standard 5 kid, that whatever is taught in the class, it should match sentence by sentence in the book. No, that's not the level. This exam is of minimum undergrad level, and if you actually explore the questions, the level of the questions is somewhat between graduation and post graduation. So the examiner wants to see you as a thinking human being. The purpose of the lecture is to trigger the method of thinking for you. How to think in ethics, how to think related to a chapter, how to connect content related to a particular chapter. And the details of it, the academic details of it is given in the chapter. तो किताब खोलकर पढ़ना तो सीखिए आप लोग. तो जब चैप्टर खोलेंगे तो आपको मिलेगा. As Ilma is also sharing, it is there in chapter 4 and 5 of the book provided by the institute to all of you. So पहले खोल कर तो पलट कर तो देखिए. आप लोग खोलना ही नहीं चाह रहे हैं, डर रहे हैं, हाय हाय कैसे होगा, है ना? तो पहले खोलो पढ़ो तब होगा, right? Now, so when we are further moving ahead with this given dimension, so I attended from the beginning. Okay, great, Jehu, if you have attended it from the beginning. Now, so the examiner wishes to see you in stage 6. Definitely, why not? The examiner wants to see you in the stage 6 of moral development, minimum stage 5, and on a high side stage 6, but minimum stage 5, because you are going to be the leader of the society. You are going to be the friend, philosopher, and guide for the society. The examiner doesn't want to see a weak, crumbly citizen. The examiner wants to see a well informed, well read, assertive citizen who's curious, alert, and capable to learn, capable to improve. Right? So, those qualities will be put to test, and those qualities have to be practiced by you on a day to day basis, the way you are exploring a given chapter. Right? So, with respect to this, as I quoted Upmanyu Chatterjee. So, what is aptitude when we are talking about it? Wait. So, if I'm discussing aptitude, so aptitude is what? It is a natural or inherent capacity to acquire acquire a certain or ability skill or ability in the future through appropriate training, through appropriate training. Right. It can be both physical as well as mental. Right. So aptitude, when we are speaking of it, it is coming from the root word aptos, which means fitted for, when you are fitted for something. Right, when you are fitted for something. For example, when we are think like Virender Sehwag, he was a short and stout man, right? He was like relatively bulkier, and his physique was not very much suited like that of a I would say a cricketer, but still he was an amazing batsman. Why? How? What was the reason? He had a great batting style because of his natural knack, because of his natural eye and hand coordination, and that was exceptional in his case. The eye and hand coordination that he had, it was natural in him, instinctive in him, that he could sense it very fast, which impacted the way he was doing the batting. So that's there. Again, Milkha Singh, you can remember. Milkha Singh was an exceptional runner, and the reason behind he being able to run was associated with the possibility of the innate talent that he had. Similarly, think about here I have taken the examples. So you can think of Mutaiya Murli Dharan. Mutaiya Murli Dharan had a natural twist in his elbow, because of which his elbow twisted for 15 degree, and he could swing his arm in such a manner that in the last 1 or 2 feet away the ball could suddenly swing. And that specific quality of bowling came because of the natural aptitude or the natural caliber that he had. Michael Phelps alone has won so many gold medals, which all athletes in India post independence clubbed together have not won as many number of gold medals as much as Michael Phelps alone has won for his country. So when we are talking about Michael Phelps, how come he is an exceptional swimmer? It is because of his arm span. His arm span is exceptionally wide, because of which he can swim more effectively. Similarly, Usain Bolt, with respect to the stretch of his legs. Srinivasan Ramanujan. Srinivasan Ramanujan, because you should understand it's mental as well as physical. So mental, so Srinivasan Ramanujan, he was never formally trained in the domain of maths. He was never formally taught in a school the level of mathematics that naturally dawned upon him. He said that it's the Tripura Sundari, means he worshipped the Devi, and he said that it is her who is dawning upon him all the knowledge and wisdom pertaining to maths, because of which he can see calculations, he can understand calculations, he can interpret the mystics of mathematics, and he can demystify it, and he can explain it. So he had the natural talent without any formal training. When we speak of it, right, he had a very short life. He died at the age of 33, but still he became like a mathematician by self reading and by I would say self exposure. So, when we are speaking of this given possibility related to aptitude, aptitude is associated with your natural or inherent or innate ability. And it's not that you cannot acquire it, you cannot learn it, you can learn it with training. Okay, that is also possible, and that's why we have civil services aptitude test, CSAT, that if you have the basic aptitude, let you get filtered and be capable to appear for mains. In the mains, when you are able to prove your aptitude as a servant, then with all the knowledge that is put to test, all the wisdom that is put to test in a written exam, then few students are filtered out and they are sent for the interview. In the interview, when you are able to prove that aptitude, then only you are selected for the exam and sent to Labasna. After Labasna, again there is homework done on your ability enhancement or capability enhancement, and only when you are able to enhance your capability after specific level of training, and let me tell you, the training is far more rigorous than the lifestyle you are living right now. Students are made to get up at 5, reach the field at 6 after like their daily ablutions, and at 6 o'clock a PT drill, a compulsory physical workout is done for 1.5 hours, and then the children are sent to take a bath, have breakfast, and go for classes. The classes continue till 5 in the evening with little breaks. There is lunch break, and then there can be some extracurricular break, and then at 5 o'clock when the students are free, then again they are assembling for for the evening programs and stuff. After having dinner, they have to prepare for the tests, sit and study for the next day lecture, and then they have, I mean, after so much of hard work, a student will retire to bed by almost, you can understand, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. So it's a very rigorous training, and only when a child qualifies that probation period of training, that a child is posted in a district. Okay, so that is how aptitude is developed. So aptitude, it can be it can be by birth, it can be by birth, and with training it can further be enhanced when we are speaking of it. Okay, so but with training it can be enhanced. If there is no training, there can be rigors or challenges. Like there are people who are such capable singers, but they do not see the light of fame, or they do not land up as becoming singers. Sometimes they are cleaners, sometimes they are masons, sometimes they are associated with household chores, any kind of work, but they may not get into Bollywood or Hollywood or any other formal platform whereby they can sing well, right? So it is because of the simple reason that they did not get the proper exposure. Okay, so with respect to this, we all need to understand. So aptitude I have already defined. Over here you can see the similar kind of definition given over here. It's the capacity or capability to acquire skill or knowledge. Okay, and because of which your future performance can be predicted, that this is what probably you can become. It is associated with your future potential, future condition. But remember, training is required. In the absence of training, one cannot acquire that given possibility. So, for example, to become an officer in defense or in police services, you need both physical and mental aptitude, right? Similarly, for civil services aptitude, when we are speaking of it, so in civil services aptitude, you need three kinds of aptitude according to certain, we can say, experts. So you need intellectual aptitude, you need emotional aptitude, and you need moral aptitude. So what is intellectual aptitude? Intellectual aptitude is associated with thinking rationally. When you are able to constantly understand the logic of what you are doing, why you are doing, and how you have to do it. So, thinking rationally, acting purposely, okay, and deal effectively with your environment. Okay, this is how you will be able to develop an intellectual aptitude. Then, emotional aptitude. So, emotional aptitude is related to emotional intelligence. In emotional intelligence, you will be able to deal with your colleagues, subordinates, people at large, even ministers and seniors. You have to actually maintain a balance with five groups. One, your senior, maybe the politician, then the departmental senior, then colleagues and batchmates, then juniors, and then larger masses. Five. And very rarely you will see that an officer is able to maintain a balance with all the five with equal elan. Some are very popular with ministers, but not so much with their seniors. Some are popular with ministers and seniors, but not with batchmates. Some are popular with ministers, seniors, and batchmates, but not juniors. Some are popular with juniors and ministers, but not seniors and batchmates. So, various permutations, combinations can be found in the services. So, with definite level of emotional intelligence, a person can create a balance in all. And third thing, with respect to civil services aptitude, as suggested by experts, is moral aptitude. And what is moral aptitude? It is associated with desirable values or foundational values, as it is said, required for civil services, like equality, empathy, justice, tolerance, integrity, non-partisanship, all of it. Okay, so that is something which all of you can connect. So that is why when we are talking about civil services aptitude, we can see that it is associated with not only performing the duties sufficiently or effectively, so efficiently, but also effectively, upholding constantly the public interest at all times when we are speaking of it. Ma'am, is physically disabled candidate also have to exercise in labasna? Well, Nitesh, a physically disabled candidate will not be provided with this component, that is IPS, पुलिस सर्विसेज नहीं मिलेगा, तो उस तरह का ट्रेनिंग नहीं होगा, right? And physical disability is put to like consideration when it comes to specific types of participation whereby a physical participation is needed. All right, so that's there. With whom person should maintain balance, please write. With whom balance, अरे भाई ये तो एकदम कॉमन सेंस नहीं है। यहाँ पर देखो कलीग लिखा है, सबॉर्डिनेट लिखा है, अपना दिमाग चला लो कि इफ यू आर द ऑफिसर, so like you need to maintain a balance, like let's consider you need to maintain balance with respect to, अरे यार लड़की बन गई, I should just make a normal stick drawing. So let's consider the person needs to maintain the balance with respect to seniors, with respect to politicians, right? When you want this in written, I think इतना टीवी सीरीज मूवीज क्यों देखते हो कि इतनी बेसिक सी चीज भी याद नहीं रह पाती है. So politicians, seniors, that is departmental seniors, okay, you need it with your colleagues. So then you need it with your juniors, and then you need it with the masses. You need to establish a balance with all the 5 levels. All right. Aptitude means pratibha, yes, that's what, and varies from people to people. So the weightage of attitude in civil services values is more like aptitude, correct, huh? What? It varies from people to people. So weightage of attitude in civil services value is more than aptitude. uh No, not really. Both is put to test. Attitude is also put to test in interview through case studies, and aptitude is put to test through all levels of exam, whether prelims, mains, or interview. Right. So, can we develop with practice? Yes, that is something which I'll be opening up. That is something which I will be explaining to all of you as we will be like the dimensions further. Can we say that ethics is darshan, dhyan is darshan, moral is dhyan, and value is karma? No, that is an incorrect comparison. Ethics is combination of the three. If ethics is associated with the domain of philosophy, तो दर्शन शास्त्र के 3 आयाम होते हैं, that is दर्शन, ध्यान और कर्म. तो आप कह रही हैं कि जो एथिक्स है, जो नीति शास्त्र है या जो नीति है, वही वो दर्शन से संबंधित है, फिर ध्यान से मॉरल, एंड देन वैल्यू से कर्मा. नहीं, morals, values, ethics, all these are associated with domain of philosophy, and you gain it after darshan, dhyan, and karma. So that will be a faulty comparison per se. Okay. Difference between attitude and aptitude, Soumya, you will realize as I discuss the chapter of attitude later. Attitude is, we can consider our temperament. Okay. Attitude, remember I had drawn a diagram previously, first chapter, don't get lost. Remember, the attitude, it was coming from what? Cognition, that is belief, plus value. Value was coming with cognition plus emotion plus behavior, finally how we act. That is our attitude, that is our tendency. Whereas aptitude is the innate capability, innate skill. Okay, so someone has aptitude to become a doctor, and someone will faint just by seeing the dead body. Someone has the aptitude to become a great singer, great cricketer, and some people will not be able to like play even basic level of games. Okay, they are so physically unfit. Some people cannot sing at all because they have a hoarse voice. So that's what we can connect when we are discussing about this given dimension. So aptitude, I hope all of you are able to understand that. So yes, I explained darshan, dhyan, and karma in the very first session. Okay. So, when we are further substantiating this given dimension pertaining to aptitude, the question is, why is aptitude needed? Okay, so why is aptitude needed when we are talking about it? So, aptitude is needed, for increasing the probability of our success. It improves, or like we can say, the importance of aptitude. In other words, it is importance of aptitude. Importance of aptitude, or why aptitude is needed. And here we can connect it with aptitude and intelligence. So when we are discussing about this given dimension, we all can understand that aptitude provides a head start. Probably I can note it here. So aptitude provides head start, head start for achieving our targets, for achieving our targets, right? We can say it increases our probability of success. It increases our probability of success, right? Due to aptitude, what happens? We need less time and effort is required to achieve a skill. Any particular skill that we need, we will be needing less time. As simple as that. There is greater sense of achievement and satisfaction. Achievement and satisfaction. Greater sense of achievement and satisfaction when we work towards our aptitude and gain success with it. And gain success with it. So, suppose someone has a natural ability to sing, and the person actually becomes a singer, and that too a famous one. So, the person will have greater sense of satisfaction in life. Sachin Tendulkar, he failed his 10th exam, but still he had a natural aptitude, he had an innate ability to perform very well in cricket. And his aptitude, when it was encouraged in the right direction, he was able to become a great cricketer. And when he was able to become a great cricketer, that could have been connected, okay, that could have been associated with the possibility of, I would say, that is something which we can consider that was able to create greater satisfaction in his life, so which he would not have been able to gain if he would have become something else. So aptitude is something which is like, associated with your innate potential. And when your innate potential is, like, guided in this given dimension, for that matter. Okay. So when we are speaking of aptitude and intelligence, for that matter, so we can also connect it in this manner with respect to it. So let's say aptitude and intelligence when we discuss about the two. So aptitude is what? It is innate or it is inherent, as well as learnt, right? Whereas innate, whereas intelligence, when we are talking about it, it is moreover learnt, moreover learnt, though it can also be inherent. It can also be inherent. Though it can also be inherent. Again, we can see intelligence is only mental. This can be both physical and mental. Again, uh, aptitude is in specific area. So aptitude is in a specific area or domain. Whereas we can see that Intelligence, it is, we can consider, it is general in nature. It is general in nature. So it can be in general present, associated with our existence when we are talking about it. So when we are discussing about aptitude, we need to understand this given dimension, that aptitude plus attitude. Attitude, you understand now? Attitude is how we act on the basis of our values, beliefs. Okay. So, and aptitude is the inherent talent that we possess. So, aptitude plus attitude equals to altitude in life. Altitude, altitude in life. Right. So, attitude, why is it important? Because with a strong aptitude, with a strong attitude, you can make extra effort. Strong attitude encourages to make extra effort. So when you are making extra effort, working hard, and you also have the innate capability, so with that you gain altitude in life. Simple, right? So that's what you can understand. Now with respect to aptitude and attitude also, when we are discussing about it, so you can also connect that given dimension. Like, let's say if I'm discussing aptitude and if I'm discussing attitude. So attitude, it is only mental, right? Aptitude, it can be both mental and physical, right? Aptitude, it is inherent. Attitude is learned, right? Again, aptitude is what we will do is kind of decided, and attitude decides how we are going to how we are going to approach a given scenario, right? So this is what, yes, aptitude can also be learnt. It can also be learnt, right? So okay, all right, fine, Nitesh. So can attitude suppress attitude, aptitude? Yeah, attitude can suppress aptitude. Like, for example, Rajiv Gandhi had the aptitude to become a politician, but he had no inclination or attitude to become one. That's why when his mother was politician, his brother was politician, he showed no inclination to enter politics. He was happy learning how to become a pilot, how to fly a plane. He was not interested to join politics. It was only when, after the death of his brother and later his mother, that he was forced to join politics. And when he was forced to join politics, many people felt that he'll be incompetent, he'll be not able to understand politics. But because he had the aptitude for it, he was able to catch up with politics very soon. So he had the aptitude but not the attitude, because of which he did not show any inclination towards politics till 1984. You do not find him like seeing like him exhibiting anything as such. Again, with respect to when we are talking about interest, so what is interest? It is a feeling that attracts you to a thing or an idea, and it is, interest also reflects, it also reflects like that the things that you do, the things that you like regardless of your skill, it is something that you are attracted to. Like, it, you can be attracted to a person, an event, a process, and it is largely the result of what you do, okay, and what you learn and who you are. So that is, or who you know, so that is something which you can connect with. So when we are talking about interest, okay, so what is interest when we are talking about it? So interest is a, we can consider, it is a feeling of attraction towards a thing or an idea, an event, a person, okay, or a process, or a process. Okay, it does not imply that they have the aptitude for it. Interest does not mean that you have, so interest can be regardless of skill, regardless of skill. I'm interested to sing. It is not necessary I know how to sing, or if I sing, it sounds very melodious. Okay. So it is just that what we enjoy to do. It has nothing to do with the skill or the potential. Okay. So please remember, finally, if I portray this like this, so attitude plus aptitude plus intelligence plus interest equals to success in life. Okay. This is something which all of us can reflect upon. Now comes the component of aptitude realization. What is aptitude realization? So aptitude realization is associated with the component related to what book mere okay, yes. So now I have spoken so many number of times related to how to go ahead with the book. At least today in the class I've spoken how to approach the book thrice, right? So I mean, all I want all of you is to make conceited efforts to read it. Okay, just try to read it, like at least thrice. Once, just read it for the sake of getting familiar, not making notes, not underlining. Second time, make reflections associated with it, that what are the parts which you could actually not understand. And in the third reading, try to connect dots, like the segment you did not understand, can you make some sense out of it with the previous and the next para? And still, if you get stuck with some 5% content, you can always raise it specifically. The team is there to support you. Now, with respect to aptitude realization, so aptitude realization literally means converting. Ayyo, just a second. So, aptitude realization literally means converting aptitude into skill. Converting aptitude into skill. And how can this happen? So, first, this happens by correct identification, correct identification of aptitude. Then, second is the motivation or resolve to pursue one's aptitude. And third, what you need is social, cultural, and economic environment. Economic environment to pursue one's aptitude. Okay. And please remember, if either of two qualities, nahin, either of two qualities, nahin, if I should say, how to explain it, two out of three qualities are present, there is high chance, there is high chance of aptitude realization. Now I'll explain this theory that I just proposed to all of you. What does it imply? So, two out of three qualities are present, then there is high chance of aptitude realization. Like, for example, when I'm talking about MF Hussain. So, MF Hussain, he was interested to become a painter, and he also had the innate capability. So he had correct identification of his aptitude, that yes, I can paint, and I can paint properly and wonderfully. And he had the motivation to become a painter. So he could identify what is his talent, and he had the motivation to become a great painter. But his economic condition was not suitable. He was so poor that he did not even have shoes when he took a local train and came to Mumbai. When he arrived in Mumbai, he did not even have shoes. And, he initially painted even filmy posters. And after painting the huge posters, because earlier they were not printed posters, they were painted posters. So he painted the filmy posters. And after painting the filmy posters, he was able to barely make the ends meet. And when he started making some savings, after that on the canvas, he started pouring his own version of creativity. So, when we speak about this given possibility associated with aptitude realization, so suppose there is a child who is realizing that I want to become a civil servant and I have the right qualities to become the civil servant. And if I pursue, the preparation properly, then I can become the civil servant, because the students who are clearing the exam are nothing exceptional, nothing out of the blue. Their answers are also very general, and I can write something like that. In this given situation, what happens is that the correct identification of one's aptitude, when we are talking about it, that yes, I can become a civil servant, I'm interested to become a civil servant, I have the leadership qualities whereby I can lead the people with enough compassion, empathy, and concern for them. And along with that, the individual is also able to see the possibility that the person is able to see that I'm ready to work hard to prepare notes to explore the possibility. But suppose the person does not have enough money, the person does not have enough monetary aid and support to purchase all the material, or attend some coaching classes or something like that. So in that situation, maybe some NGO can come to rescue, some benevolent person can come to rescue, some teacher can come to rescue after seeing the exceptional acumen that a child is having, the kind of questions the child is raising, the kind of engagements that a child is making. Just recently I was seeing on YouTube that what was that TV series, it just flashed on my handle, that was Sandeep Bhaiya. So in that Sandeep Bhaiya series, I saw that there was this girl who was selling tiffin boxes. She used to cook food and give food to people. So in that, this girl, what happened was that she told this fellow who has lost all his civil services attempts. So she says that, Sandeep Bhaiya, please, why don't you evaluate my copy? My father thinks I can become an IS officer, but I don't feel. Now, see, she wants to become an officer, but she does not have the courage to accept. So she is under an ethical dilemma. And she was hustling extra. She did not have the monetary support. So all she needed was that if someone can evaluate my copy and in exchange, I can feed the person. Okay, because that's the skill that I have, to cook. So when this fellow, he was like little reluctant, he was quite dejected in his own life, he was quite lost because of the lost attempt and all attempts being exhausted. But when he reads the answer of the girl, like question after question, when he reads the answers without any formal support, he is seeing that her understanding of history and IR and environment and science and tech is so profound. He's like, wow, without any support, this girl is becoming. And he was so disappointed with the kind of answers which he was seeing in and around him, with respect to all the aspirants who are preparing for the exam. So he says that, rather than saying why you are preparing, she's like, why are you not preparing to become an IS officer? And when she hears, she was like shocked. She's like, what did you say? He was like, yes, why are you not preparing for becoming a civil services aspirant? So she became so joyous. Why? What was the reason? She had identified her talent. She was ready to hustle for it, but she was not very sure. And despite the economic deprivations she was suffering from, this guy, when he supported her, she was able to go ahead for her aptitude realization. And later on in the series only, they show a poster in which the girl has become a foreign services officer, an IFS officer. That means aptitude realization could take place. Same is with, why have I kept Shah Faisal's example? Because Shah Faisal, after being a part of the bureaucracy, he could realize that his real potential in terms of serving the people can further be realized even as a politician. So, briefly, he submitted his resignation and he tried his hands at politics. But somehow he was put under house arrest for more than a year. And later on, just recently, he was coerced to, like, join the services and quit politics. So all that stuff has happened. But anyway, a person can take such a leap of faith of quitting civil services and joining politics only when a person has a sense of aptitude realization. Okay, so aptitude realization, remember, it is dependent on three factors, and even if two out of three factors are there, the tendency for aptitude realization, will be there per se when we are speaking of it. Again, with respect to it, we can also talk about aptitude identification. So when we are talking about aptitude identification, it is also called aptitude battery. Okay, when we are talking about it with respect to formal ways, so formal ways is also called, as you can see, it is called aptitude test or aptitude battery. Okay, and there are informal ways as well. So what is informal way? You can recall Budhia Singh. So Budhia Singh, like, the CRPF Jawans were getting trained and they were running, and suddenly Budhia Singh, a little kid, barely like 4 or 5 years old, and he suddenly started running, and he joined, like, the Jawans were like, oh, this kid is running, and the kid kept running, and he completed a full marathon of 42 kilometers. And when he completed the full marathon, everyone was amazed. He did not take a break, he did not drink water, he did not stop. So that, like, I would say, unparalleled talent, when was identified, that was, like, uh, brought before the commandant, the CRPF commandant. He was present that day. So it was brought in front of his eyes. It made to local newspapers, the national newspapers. So that was an informal way. There was no formal test conducted to find the fastest boy of his age. He just randomly came out of the blue. He joined the race and he kept running and completed a 42-kilometer marathon. So that's an informal way how the aptitude of a young child got identified. It's another thing that poor guy, his entire caliber and talent was wasted badly, in the sense that, like, this child, he became a victim of politics, whereby it was said that it is violation of, we can consider, the human rights. It is violation of the human rights of the child. He should not be put to such strenuous training at a young age. Had he been in China, by now he would have been participating in Junior Olympics. Anyway, so even his coach, when his coach was there, he said that there is a lot of politics around Budhia and people would kill him if he continues with his training. But I'm trying to protect him and at the same time get him trained. But because of few statements which his coach made, his coach was killed. Okay, his coach was killed after 6 7 months, and later on Budhia Singh was like, discouraged from running. And today the condition of this teenager is that he cannot run even half kilometer without huffing and puffing. He has lost his stamina, and forget about the training aspect. So that's also there. But anyway, we were able to identify this unique kid through an informal way. Okay, then comes the component of formal way. Formal way, which is also called aptitude battery. Okay, so we can continue with this discussion, formal way of aptitude identification, tomorrow. You already know about it to a certain extent through CSAT, Civil Services Aptitude Test. So we'll continue with this discussion tomorrow, and we can just, continue with this exploration related to this chapter, and in continuation with this, we'll be discussing foundational values for civil services. All right, so that's what, if one really wants to become the model, then in body shape, help in X physical attitude. Yeah, I mean, like, so that's what. But avoid writing an exam. Don't mention name of the president. Oh, are you writing Yogi ji and all that, Prakhar? Please avoid any present and serving politician, because it may trigger a negative insight, because you don't know who is evaluating the copy and what kind of positive, negative emotions and attitudes one possesses towards a specific person. And anyway, it is like not a apolitical behavior to write like this in the exam. So just avoid like that. All right. All right then. Thank you. Let's meet again tomorrow. Thanks and take care.